This episode of Joe's Retro Radio is brought to you by Wishing Stars Native Creations, Fine Art Today, and Marshall Woodworking. Check out these companies and many more by going to the Friends page at tinyurl.com/Gunther's House or tinyurl.com/Gunther Mobile. Good Sunday evening, my friends. It is the 8th day of December, 2013, and it's time for another edition of Joe's Retro Radio, episode number 4, as I paid tribute to the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, 72 years ago yesterday. And tonight on the program, I have 4 great classic radio programs for you. I want to start off with a rare one, Captain Flag and Sergeant... my mind just went blank there. I'm sorry about that. With Captain Flag and... what was his name? Anyway, Captain Flag coming up in just a moment. Then the Jack Benny program. The Great Gildersleeve to follow. And then I'll have an actual report from CBS Radio to round off the program. We're going to start off, though, with a brief summary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, kind of give you a background as to what was going on that horrific day 72 years ago yesterday. And for a broadcasting industry to be reporting war news as a neutral country, well, the United States was in a solid position to be able to do so, to report events generally without problem of censorship. But with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the U.S. suddenly became a country at war. This meant that the government was going to protect its interest and prevent problems that could erupt when broadcasting was carried throughout the nation. So the bombing of Pearl Harbor presented another example of radio in transition. And now, to give you an idea of what was going on, it was a lazy Sunday morning throughout much of Hawaii at the Pearl Harbor Naval Base. It was approaching 8 o'clock that morning. Meanwhile, in New York City, it was already well into the afternoon. The East Coast was listening to a football game between the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers, which had an approximate 2 o'clock Eastern Time kickoff. And then approximately at around 2:26, WOR, possibly Mutual, broke into the game with this surprise bulletin.
It's a long one down to around the 3-yard line. Ward Cup takes it, cutting up to his left. He's over the 10. Nice block there by Lehman. Cup still going. He's up to the 25. And now he's hit and hit hard about the 27-yard line. Bruiser Kennard made the tackle.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Flash, Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
And this was about an attack at the naval base at Pearl Harbor. The NBC Red Network was also broadcasting, and they had Sammy Kaye's Sunday Serenade, and this is a sample of that broadcast.
From Radio City in New York, it is the pleasure of the National Broadcasting Company to bring you Sammy Kaye's Sunday Serenade, featuring his world-famed swing and sway music. This is yours truly, Sammy Kaye, welcoming you most heartily to our Sunday Serenade.
That's Sammy Kaye and his orchestra with Tommy Ryan, Alan Foster, and the 3 Cadettes. The day's broadcast was just about finished, and next up was the rather bland University of Chicago Roundtable. The topic was Canada, a neighbor at war. Canada, part of the British Empire, had declared war on Germany soon after England. While we supplied material to the British, Canada was supplying an even more precious commodity, men. Well, just as the NBC network program changeover was to take place, it upcut the start of the roundtable with its very first bulletin.
Stop on my account. You can say anything you like. Oh, thank you. I'm disloyal. We interrupt this program to take you to NBC Newsroom.
From the NBC Newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a statement today that the Japanese have attacked the Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the air. I'll repeat that. President Roosevelt says that the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii from the air. This bulletin came to you from the NBC Newsroom in New York.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program. See any sense lying in bed if you're not sick? I suppose days are different.
Now that was just around 2:30 that afternoon, read by NBC News writer Robert Eisenbach. At the same time on the Blue Network, NBC interrupted with this announcement.
From the NBC Newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a statement today that the Japanese have attacked the Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the air. I'll repeat that. President Roosevelt says that the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii from the air. This bulletin came to you from the NBC Newsroom in New York.
Which for 2 years has been at war with Adolf Hitler. To the battlefronts of the world, this neighbor at war has sent men, food, airplanes, guns, and ships.
Meanwhile, over at CBS, where the only regularly scheduled news broadcast on Sundays was about to begin, things were in a disarray as the United Press wire news flash flowed in about the bombing. The 2:30 program was The World Today. Normally this program would have gone on the air to report current world events, but on December 7th, 1941, they began almost immediately with the bulletin by announcer John Daly of Pearl Harbor being bombed.
The World Today. By shortwave radio, Columbia now brings you reports from its foreign correspondents overseas with summaries of the latest world news presented over these stations by Golden Eagle Gasoline. Go ahead, New York.
The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
CBS continued with additional commentary on the impact of this event, but NBC continued with its regular programming. That CBS's regular program was news-related offered it a better opportunity to give broader coverage. Now I'll have that entire broadcast coming up for you toward the end of the show. That'll be the last segment on tonight's program. In the meantime, at 2:38:20 Eastern Standard Time that day, NBC Red offered another bulletin.
We have a women's army now. We also are taking large numbers of women into the factories and have been for a considerable period.
Your point is that conscription for overseas service, or the sending even on a voluntary... We interrupt this program to take you to the NBC Newsroom.
From the NBC Newsroom in New York, the White House also reported today an simultaneous air attack on Army and Navy bases in Manila. This report followed the President's declaration that all Army and bases on the island of Oahu in Hawaii are now under air attack. This bulletin came to you from the NBC Newsroom in New York.
Now back to our regularly scheduled programs.
Canada can hardly stand up. You'll then have to have conscription of women for the sake of uniformity.
Now this news bulletin later proved to be false. This was followed about 15 minutes later by the University of Chicago roundtable moderator mentioning that Burma was being bombed.
Then manufacturers, wholesalers, and distributors will have to help in making adjustments so that the squeeze will be distributed as equitably as possible.
Britnell, while you were talking, I've just learned that the Japanese are now bombing Burma. This is an act that may lead the United States to war against Japan. It may lead Canada to more active military effort against Japan. I merely mention this to show how fast events are moving while we're discussing these adjustments that are being made in the Canadian and American economies during the war. But to pursue this question of price control further, you have in Canada...
Meanwhile, back at CBS at 2:33 p.m., Washington, D.C. based newsman Albert Warner speculated on what possible steps President Roosevelt would take, given that the Japanese envoys were meeting with Secretary of State Cordell Hull as the bombing was taking place.
The details are not available. They will be in a few minutes. The White House is now giving out a statement. The attack apparently was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu. The President's brief statement was read to reporters by Stephen Early, the President's secretary. A Japanese attack upon Pearl Harbor naturally would mean war. Such an attack would naturally bring a counterattack, and hostilities of this kind would naturally mean that the President would ask Congress for a declaration of war. There is no doubt from the temper of Congress that such a declaration would be granted. This morning, Secretary Hull talked with the Secretaries of War and of the Navy. Now the two special Japanese envoys, Admiral Nomura and Special Envoy Kurusu, are at the State Department, engaged in conference with Secretary of State Hull. Their appearance at the State Department on this Sunday afternoon over the whole South Pacific. Even more important than the visit of Tokyo's diplomats is this news which comes from Pearl Harbor and the news which comes from South Asia. Whatever the diplomats from Tokyo or the cabinet in Tokyo may be saying, there is a conviction in official quarters here that Japan has now cast the die. All the bits of information which came to the State Department and the Navy yesterday and today indicated that Japanese transports containing troops were steaming into the Gulf of Thailand. Japanese warships were providing a heavy escort. Having rounded the southernmost point of French Indochina, the convoy had as its only obvious destination Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. It was on the basis of this information that President Roosevelt sent to Emperor Hirohito of Japan his personal message last night, a message which appealed to the Mikado for restraint and peace. It seemed to be a final plea from the United States. And if the activities today are substantiated, it is a final plea. For if Japanese troops attempt to capture Bangkok or attack Pearl Harbor, the delicate balance which has maintained peace in South Asia is destroyed. The four powers, the United States, Britain, the Dutch East Indies, and Australia, have given Japan ample warning that invasion of Thailand would mean counteraction by the associated powers. These Japanese envoys, Nomura and Kurusu, requested the appointment with Mr. Hull today. The engagement was set for 1:45 p.m. They arrived some minutes late and in turn were kept waiting before the door to Mr. Hull's office was opened to them at 2:20. In the meantime, the President had prepared the statement which announced that Japan was attacking Pearl Harbor from the air. It is possible that the Tokyo diplomats wanted again to assure the State Department that the reports of Japanese troop movements in French Indochina were exaggerated. They did that once before on instructions from Tokyo when the President propounded his question about those movements last Tuesday. At that time, Tokyo replied that the movements were in North Indochina to offset Chinese movements on the Indochina border. The specific information of the State Department now and then was that the bulk of the Japanese troops were being moved to South Indochina, where they were in a better position to threaten Thailand. The President's plea to Emperor Hirohito was also supported by a note of warning. The warning is supported by developments and preparations in this capital. The meeting between Secretary Hull and the Secretaries of War and Navy this morning was an example of the plans that are being laid. It would be a mistake for Japan to believe that these preparations are any kind of bluff. Although officials in Washington are silent on what would be the definite consequences of a Japanese attack on Hawaii or an attack on Thailand, there are indications of what is being considered and the steps which may be taken this very afternoon. The first would be a severance of diplomatic relations with Tokyo. An immediate naval blockade in which the American Navy would take a leading part, along with British units, is the other probability. Both these steps could be taken by the President on his own executive authority. But an effective naval blockade, of course, could not continue long without hostilities. As a matter of fact, according to the President's announcement, those hostilities are already underway with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And just now comes the word from the President's office that a second air attack has been reported on Army and Navy bases in Manila. Thus, we have official announcements from the White House that Japanese airplanes have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and have now attacked Army and Navy bases in Manila. We return you now to New York and will give you later information as it comes along from the White House. Return you now to New York.
Now, probably surprising today, but not then, NBC went back to regularly scheduled programming until the top of the hour at 3 o'clock. Radio was driven mostly by commercial sponsors. To interrupt a sponsored program required the permission of the sponsor executives. While there were several interruptions during the University of Chicago Roundtable on the Red Network, there was only one on the Blue Network during its regularly scheduled Great Plays. CBS, on the other hand, was in the midst of a news program and could continue without problems broadcasting breaking news. Meanwhile, in London, CBS broadcaster Robert Trout spoke briefly about what impact the news would probably have on Britain, which was not yet aware of the attack that Japan was making on Pearl Harbor.
For a direct report on British reaction to the latest moves in the Near East and the Far East, Bob Trout is standing by in the British capital. Go ahead, London.
London heard its first news of the attacks on Hawaii and the Philippines from John Charles Daly in New York just a few moments ago. The report had not arrived in London before this Columbia program began. It is, of course, too early to give you any reaction, but as you know, the British government made plain what would happen if America became involved in war with Japan some days ago. We did get earlier that official report from Singapore that British air reconnaissance in the South China Seas had confirmed the earlier reports of Japanese activities. Japanese naval vessels, including cruisers, seen off the southern tip of Indochina, steaming toward the northwest. That announcement backed up those earlier dispatches from Washington telling of heavy Japanese troop concentrations in Indochina, both ashore and afloat. About the President's message to the Emperor of Japan, we heard nothing except the announcement that a message had been sent.
Due to the Austrian crisis just a couple of years before, all of the United States radio news organizations began beefing up their overseas coverage, especially CBS. They were ready to report from overseas. Then, during an analysis by Elmer Davis, John Daly cut in with another bulletin that the attack was still going on. CBS was able to get a telephone line from New York through to Ford Wilkins, their stringer, in Manila, who began to report that the Philippines were now under attack, but due to sudden censorship by the U.S. government, he was cut off at 2:49 p.m.
Continuing on the Far Eastern situation, this time we go abroad to get a report direct from the danger zone, from Manila in the Philippines, which has been attacked as we have told you. CBS correspondent Ford Wilkins has watched Manila get ready for this attack. And now, for the report of Ford Wilkins, direct from Manila, go ahead, Manila.
The danger and panic is also great. With the bulk of the population shifted, there is sufficient shelter and protection to make the city safe enough for those who remain. Whether war comes or not, the government is seriously considering closing the schools and moving the children to evacuation centers where schools may be set up. One immediate government problem is to raise some $15 million to carry on. The original emergency fund is nearly exhausted. Manila's problems are reflected throughout the country, and they are acute in places which are considered danger zones. They are likewise reflected throughout this whole Pacific area where war threatens. Hong Kong has mobilized completely and called out volunteers. Singapore's fighting forces are standing by ready for anything. In Java, they have been preparing for many months. In Tai, the little buffer state between French Indochina and Burma, the tension reaches its highest point. Japanese troops are crowding it on the east, and the large movement of Japanese ships accompanied by cruisers has been spotted by British patrol flyers from Singapore, steaming up the Gulf of Siam towards Bangkok. Across the China Sea from the Philippines,
due to line troubles beyond... We return you now to CBS in New York.
Well, at 3 o'clock, CBS began broadcasting of its regular scheduled New York Philharmonic Orchestra program. NBC Red returned at 3:15 with comments from H.V. Kaltenborn with this report.
At this time each Sunday, the National Broadcasting Company presents H.V. Kaltenborn, Dean of Radio Commentators, who today will analyze and interpret the day's startling news from the Pacific. Mr. Kaltenborn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Japan has made war upon the United States without declaring it. Airplanes, presumably from aircraft carriers, have attacked the great Pearl Harbor naval base on the island of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands and have attacked Manila, capital of the Philippines. There has been damage. Some fires were started. About 50 planes participated in the attack on the Hawaiian Islands. Many, according to a bulletin that has just come in, were shot down. This attack occurred at the very moment when Ambassador Nomura and Special Envoy Caruso were at the State Department discussing the possibility of peace between Japan and the United States. We know that Japan set a precedent for this kind of attack in the Russo-Japanese War, when she attacked the Russian fleet without a declaration of war, while that fleet was not expecting attack. However, the United States was not unprepared for attack. Anti-aircraft guns immediately went into action and were responsible for bringing down many of the Japanese planes. We have no details from what happened in Manila, but they may come along before this broadcast is finished. Let me now tell you exactly what happened in the order in which it developed here in the NBC newsroom. At 2:25 came the first flash. White House announces Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor. 10 minutes later came this announcement from the White House that Japanese airplanes attacked Pearl Harbor and all naval and military activities on the island of Oahu. That is the principal island of the Hawaiian group. It is the one upon which American military and naval establishments are located. It is a great fortified center of American military and naval strength in the center of the Pacific. White House Secretary Early received the information from the President, who presumably received it directly from the Navy. And his announcement said, the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor from the air and all naval and military activities on the island of Oahu, the principal American base in the Hawaiian Islands. That announcement was made to all press associations by telephone, and immediately after making it, Mr. Early hurried to the White House for conference with the President. The Navy refused to issue any statement on its own account and said that all information would be channeled through the White House. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor came news only 2 minutes later of the Japanese attack on Manila. The White House announced that the Japanese attack on Army and Navy bases at Manila was reported to the President. Then began the dispatches from private sources, from the Press Association representatives themselves. The United Press reported that Oahu Island was attacked by unidentified airplanes. It is natural that a press correspondent does not know just what particular nationality planes belong to, but the Navy knows Japanese planes when it sees them. Policemen and firemen were immediately ordered in a radio broadcast to go to the Army and Navy posts to which they were assigned in the city of Honolulu. The smoke of anti-aircraft guns rose over the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard immediately when the attack began, and heavy smoke also drifted up from Hickam Airfield in the Pearl Harbor area, this apparently from the fires set by incendiary bombs. Other witnesses said that fires broke out on Ford Island. Ford Island is an important military island located in the center of Pearl Harbor, and many military establishments are located on that island. A dispatch from Fort Shafter in Hawaiian Islands, which came by telephone from Honolulu, states that 50 unidentified airplanes attacked the island of Oahu. The main targets appeared to be Hickam Field and, of course, the great naval base at Pearl Harbor. So far as is known, the attacks on Hawaii and Manila were made wholly without warning. This is the first sentence of a statement that has just come from the State Department in Washington. The statement reads, so far as is known, the attacks on Hawaii and Manila were made wholly without warning when both nations were at peace, and they were delivered within an hour or so of the time that Japanese Ambassador Nomura and Japan's Special Envoy, Mr. Caruso, had gone to the State Department and handed to the Secretary of State Japan's reply to the Secretary's memorandum of November 26.
Now, except for bulletin interruptions, regular programming continued well into the evening as the fact of a country soon to be at war began to dawn on America. As events developed, government control of the airwaves began to unfold. On the NBC Red Network at 4:06 p.m., this report from the roof of KGU in Honolulu was suddenly cut off by a telephone operator seizing the line for an emergency just 3 minutes later.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special broadcast.
Here's the bulletin. Washington. The President decided today, after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor and Manila, to call an extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet for 8:30 p.m. tonight, and to have congressional leaders of both parties join the conference at 9 p.m. And now we take you to Honolulu. One moment, please.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, NBC. Hello, NBC. This is KGU in Honolulu, Hawaii. I am speaking from the roof of the Advertiser Publishing Company building. We have witnessed this morning the distant view, the battle off Pearl Harbor, and the severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese. The city of Honolulu has also been attacked and considerable damage done. This battle has been going on for nearly 3 hours. One of the bombs dropped within 50 feet of KGU Tower. It is no joke, it is the real war. The public of Honolulu have been advised to keep in their homes and await results from the Army and Navy. There has been fierce fighting going on in the air and on the sea. The heavy shooting seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a moment, we'll interrupt you. We cannot estimate yet how much damage has been done, but it has been a very severe attack. The Navy and Army appear now to have the air and the sea under control.
May I interrupt just a second, please? This is the telephone company, the chief operator.
Yes?
We try to get John an emergency call.
Well, what about
One moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we're standing by for further word from Honolulu, and we expect to rejoin them in just...
Well, later that evening, Hawaiian time, KGU broadcast this brief summary of events and eyewitness reports.
Go ahead, Honolulu.
The island of Oahu in the Pacific, one of the most thickly populated islands of the Hawaiian group, was attacked by Japanese planes this morning, starting at about 8 o'clock. No one would believe when reports emanated from the 2 radio stations here that the islands had been attacked. But when bombs began falling in various parts of the city and in different Army and Navy posts and bases, people knew Japan was endeavoring to eradicate America's outpost in the Pacific. Now, here's a report that I've gathered from different reporters of the Honolulu Advertiser who've been out endeavoring to get information concerning the Japanese air attack on the island of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. The first information in Honolulu that planes of Japan were attacking the islands was about 8 o'clock this morning, Hawaiian time. The first group of Japanese airplanes attacked Ford Island at Pearl Harbor, the Navy's mighty fortress in the islands. Roy Batusik, a local attorney, was up in his private plane flying over Cocoa Head when he said 1 or 2 Japanese planes gave him a salute of machine gun bullets as they approached the city. The plane was slightly damaged, and Mr. Batusik made a landing. After machine gunning Ford Island, the first Japanese planes moved to Hickam Field. Observers said considerable damage was done to planes and to Hickam Field. There is great activity there now in clearing the field of debris. At Pearl Harbor, where is based the Pacific Fleet, 3 ships were attacked. The Oklahoma was set afire. All lines of communication seem to be down between the various Army posts and Navy aerodromes and Army airfields. There has been no statement made by the Navy. The Army has issued orders for all people, the civilian population, to remain off the streets. The first raiders carried torpedoes and did their damage to shipping in Pearl Harbor and off Honolulu. Everyone here in the islands were taken by surprise by the attack, and even yet it's difficult for some people to believe that our air raid on these beautiful islands has actually happened and that lives have been lost. Several planes have been shot down, and anti-aircraft gunnery is very heavy. It is thought that the planes came from the south in the direction of the island of Kauai. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hickam Field and Wheeler Field, several squadrons of Japanese planes came in from the south over Diamond Head, dropping bombs and incendiary bombs over the city. One bomb dropped in front of the governor's mansion at Washington Place and killed 1 man. Another dropped by the Honolulu Advertiser, nearly hitting several people and almost reaching its mark. At Pacific Heights and Dowsett Highlands, beautiful residential districts, there was heavy bombing. 1 woman was killed in Dowsett Highlands. The governor has proclaimed a state of emergency. Traffic is almost at a standstill in parts of the city. However, the traffic to and from Waikiki seems to be normal. When Japanese planes appeared over Waikiki, there were many people out in the streets and watched the bombing there. 1 man at Waikiki was badly injured when a bomb dropped in the heart of that beach resort. The Japanese planes seem to have come over the city and the environs with no intimation whatsoever that these were Japanese planes. And it was a very difficult for people here to believe that these were Japanese planes. Here's a report that just came from Hickam Field. There were 350 men killed in a direct bomb hit on the barracks at Hickam Field. Then at Bellows Field, on the other side of the island, on the windward side of the islands, the field was bombed very heavily. That's all the news from Honolulu now. We'll be back with more news at a later time. This is KGU in Honolulu, Hawaii.
The coming of America's involvement in World War II also brought about the increasing development and rise of broadcast journalism. Much of that credit goes to Edward R. Murrow and the CBS News team, but there were equally innovators at NBC and the Mutual Broadcasting System. But on this day, we could only witness the first pangs of its birth. Now, to give you a broader picture about what was going on throughout the day, I have 3 programs for you, plus the actual CBS broadcast of the world today on December 7th, 1941. And I'm going to start off with Captain Flagg and Sergeant Quirt, a man's name I could not remember earlier in the program. Then it's the Jack Benny program. Follow that up with the Great Gildersleeve, and then, of course, the CBS News report about the attack.
Program to give you latest news bulletins. Stay tuned to this station. Here comes the big bandwagon. Laugh a while, let us talk.
One moment, please.
Thank you, Professor Dahlstedt, and hello, everybody. Well, folks, a trip all the way out to Hollywood just wouldn't be complete without giving you some of that product for which Hollywood is so superlatively famous. Because I mean that.
Very finest. And here's the proof. Menon is the choice of more skin specialists, more doctors of dermatology than any other brand. More than the next 2 leading brands combined. Remember, for Christmas, Menon gift boxes for men. As our story opens, it is 5:30 a.m. at the United States Marine Corps base, and the bugler is lustily, if not melodiously, heralding the arrival of a new day.
Hey, Pumpkin, that's Reveille. Yeah, pretty, ain't it?
You know, the beds they give you here make it a pleasure to get up in the morning.
Well, when you get rich, Lighthouse, you can buy your own bed.
Yeah, I got it all picked out, only it ain't exactly a bed.
No?
No. It's one of them chasing lounges.
A chasing lounge?
Yeah, I was reading all about them in the Sears and Roebuck catalog.
I never heard of them.
Well, they ain't really for sleeping. They're for people who get tiresome in the afternoon and feel like collapsing.
Hey, you guys hear Reveille?
Sure.
Well, doesn't it mean anything to you?
Nah, we're not music lovers.
So you don't like the bugle, huh?
At this time of morning, we wouldn't even like a sympathy or...
Declared San Francisco in a state of emergency tonight and demanded the immediate cessation of all strikes in order to present a united front. Bulletin from Washington. Secretary Morgenthau tonight closed the nation's border to Japanese nationals and imposed a strict ban on any financial transaction by Japanese aliens. We return you now to Hollywood.
Always looking for a fight, that Sergeant Bliss. They tell me he won't even talk to himself without taking his glasses off.
I understand he found out about Sergeant Quirk sending him that fake telegram last week.
Yeah, and he promised to punch Coit in the nose the first time he runs into him.
Well, with Bliss, a promise is a promise.
Sure, he's very promiscuous.
Boy, there's nothing like a good cold shower once you get under it.
Yeah.
It wakes you up, fills you full of pep, and makes you tingle all over.
Is the water any colder than it usually is?
I don't know. I ain't under it yet.
you, Captain, was to tell you that I've just been advised that a high-ranking official of the Navy Department is expected to arrive in camp today.
Thank you, sir.
He'll undoubtedly want to review your company, and it's very important that the men and equipment under your command be ready for his inspection.
I can assure you, General, the Company K will do everything possible to make a good impression on it.
It's very important that you check the report on company property and see that any shortages are made up immediately.
Yes, sir. I'll start on it at once.
Drop everything else that you're doing and get those reports to me not later than noon. We have no time to lose. That's all.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain Flagg?
Yeah? What is it, Quest?
Say, Flagg, Sergeant Bliss just found out about that phony telegram I sent him last week, and he says he's going to punch me in the nose today.
Well, you have lovely weather for it.
He can't scare me with any of his threats. But when I tangle with Bliss, I want to be able to do a good job of it.
Well, nobody's stopping you, unless it's Bliss.
Don't make me laugh. We've just got to think of something to stall Bliss along until I'm in condition to knock his head off.
I haven't any time to help you solve your personal matters, Quest. Go and find Sergeant Bliss and tell him I want a complete report of small arms.
Bliss? Oh, I just got through telling you that Bliss is going to give me a punch in the nose the minute he sees me.
Well, tell him I want him to give you the report first.
Listen, I wouldn't talk to that guy.
Well, what's the matter? You afraid of him?
You know I'm not afraid of him. But what chance will I stand with a sprained wrist?
Oh, you told me once that you could lick him with one hand.
I could, but this is the wrong hand.
I also want you to tell Corporal Gowdy to make a detailed list of all automatic weapons and extra equipment.
I'll do it right now. I think he's in the library here. I'll tell him.
Yeah. And then come to my office as soon as you get through.
Okay, Flagg. Hey, Gowdy, what are you doing?
I'm reading a book.
Well, you can put it down now. I'm impressed.
You know, it wouldn't hurt you to read a book once in a while.
Well, who would I read it to? All the dames I know would run a neck.
Why don't you read him a book on how to make love?
I haven't written it yet. Hey, you know, I pulled a fast one on a little blonde last night. I said to her, honey, you'd be very proud to go out with a murine. And she said, you don't mean murine. Murine is for the eyes. And I said, well, am I hard to look at?
Yeah, that's very funny. Say, I meant to tell you, I was talking to that friend of mine, Dr. Sterling. You remember, you went up to his office last week.
Oh, you ought to remember. He gave me some pills to pep me up for the prize fight. And they turned out to be sleeping pills, and I was asleep in the ring.
Yeah, but you didn't see Dr. Sterling. That was some old guy that was minding the office for him. A guy who all his life has wanted to be a doctor, and when you walked in the office, he couldn't resist the temptation to make believe he was Dr. Sterling.
Well, he certainly fixed me up good.
The old guy's very sorry about the whole thing. He's coming down here today to apologize.
Oh, what good is an apology? In the meantime, my wrist isn't getting any better, and Sergeant Bliss is looking for me.
Well, what does Bliss want?
He's looking for a fight.
Well, you can't give him one. You got a sprained wrist.
He doesn't know about that. So he'll be expecting a fight.
Then he'll have to wait. You know you can't get blood out of a turnip.
I know that, but this nose of mine isn't a turnip.
Now, let me know how everything comes out. I want to finish this book.
Listen, your reading is over today.
Huh?
Captain Flagg wants you to get a list of all the automatic... Say, let me see that book. Hey, where did you get this?
Are you kidding?
No. This has given me a terrific idea. I'd like to know where you found it.
Can anybody hear us talking?
No. Where did you get it?
Out of the bookcase. They keep books there, too, you know.
Are you telling me the truth when you say Sergeant Quirt isn't here?
Sure, what would he be doing in the kitchen?
I thought maybe he'd come in for some of those delicious beans of yours.
What's the matter with him? I've been cooking them for years.
Sure, and they taste like it. You know, you just cook them as a matter of routine. Your heart isn't in it.
My heart's not supposed to be in it. The recipe calls for pork.
How long have you been in the service?
Since 1925.
Well, don't you know the Marines' motto?
Sure, Semper Fidelis, always faithful.
And if you're a good Marine, why do you use Navy beef?
Listen, Bliss, you're a gunnery sergeant, and I'm a mess sergeant. I don't tell you what to do on the rifle range, and I don't want you telling me what to do on the kitchen range.
Well, I'm going to tell you. That spinach you gave us last night had sand in it.
So what? I'm doing the best I can. I'm serving my country the same as you are.
But you don't have to serve it in the spinach. come here to argue anyway? I came here to find Sergeant Quirt.
I've already told you he ain't here.
Well, that's too bad. I had a little something I wanted to give him.
Yeah, he may drop in later. You can leave it with me if you want.
I'd like to, but it's a little present just for him.
If you give it to him now, aren't you afraid he'll open it before Christmas?
No, he won't be able to open it before New Year's. It's a black eye I'm giving him. And it's a hand-painted one.
Flag, this is the best idea I've had in years.
Did you get those reports for me, Quet?
I got the idea from a book that Gowdy was reading in the library. The Science of Hypnotism.
Hypnotism?
Yeah, I'm going to hypnotize Bliss.
Are you crazy? You don't know anything about hypnotism.
Neither does Bliss, so we're both starting out together. Did you ever see a reptile hypnotize a bird?
Yes, no. I haven't time to watch you.
But it's all done with the eyes and the mind.
Well, you've got the eyes.
Well, according to the book, there's nothing to it. Now, this is how it's done. I see Bliss coming toward me.
Look, Quet, I don't have time for this sort of foolishness. The general is
Give
coming
him a
out.
hypnotic eye like this. Now, Bliss's nicknames are Bulldog, Wildcat, and Tiger because he thinks he's wild. So when I'm giving him the beady stare, I plant in his subconscious mind that he isn't wild. I keep staring at him and repeating, I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour. I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every
Just a moment, we will return to our story with Victor McLaglen as Captain Flagg and Edmund Lowe as Sergeant Quirt. Ladies and gentlemen, any man on your Christmas list will be mighty pleased to receive a handsome Menon Christmas gift box. A gift box of Menon shave products. They're America's finest. The favorite with skin specialists. Yes, a recent impartial survey proves this important fact. Proves that more doctors of dermatology, specialists on skin care, use Menon shave products than any other brand. More than the next two leading brands combined. No other shave products offer such authoritative proof of quality. A fact that makes Menon gift boxes for men the perfect Christmas gift. There are 4 Menon gift boxes, each with a magnificent cover picture painted by a famous artist. Inside each gift box is a generous supply of Menon shave products. 2 kinds of Menon shave cream, plus Menon skin bracer, plus Menon talcum for men. These famous gift boxes sell for only $1.25 each, with a big deluxe box at $2. They're exceptional values. And so for the man in service, for the man at home, make this Christmas memorable with a Menon gift box. Every man will appreciate it, because man to man, it's Menon.
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour. Now, I just keep saying it over and over. Pretty soon, Bliss repeats it after me.
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour.
Yeah, that's it. And after he repeats it a few times, he starts believing it. Then when I have him under my hypnotic spell, I can make him do anything I want. Now, what do you think of that idea, Flagg?
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour.
Don't look at me that way, Captain.
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour.
Flagg! Flagg! Not you. I was only showing you how I was going to hypnotize Sergeant Bliss.
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour.
Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back.
Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. Well, what'll I do? What'll I do? Where's the book? Where's Corporal Gowdy? He's back. You know what it takes?
I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour.
I don't know what's going on over there, but I'll be right over and find out.
In my power, growing milder every hour.
I don't know what's going on over there, but I'll be right over and find out.
Now, you fellows understand that service in the Marine Parachute Troops is strictly voluntary. These troops are hand-picked, and only top-grade Marines are accepted. You know what it takes to be a parachute jumper? You know what it takes for a man to go up 25 or 30,000 feet in the air? I said, what does it take?
An airplane.
All right, never mind the wisecrack, Trumpkin. And you, Lighthouse, what are you looking so disgusted about?
I don't like your altitude.
Hey, Corporal, if a guy goes 25 or 30,000 feet in the air, can he get down all right?
Well, they never left anybody up there yet.
But supposing you jump out of a plane and your parachute don't open, then what?
Then you bring it back and they give you another one.
You mean they won't be mad at you?
Ain't it dangerous in one of them planes?
No, in case of any trouble, you always have a radio.
Well, if there was any trouble, I'd be too nervous to sit around and listen to the radio.
Above 17,000 feet, you have to breathe oxygen. Hey, what's that? It's pure air out of a tank.
Hey, are you kidding?
What do you mean, am I kidding?
Well, I've ridden in them tanks, and I didn't think the air was so good.
This is a different tank.
How do you know which one he was riding in?
Hey, Gowdy. Hey, watch yourself now, fellas. Here comes Sergeant Worth. I've been looking all over for you, Gowdy. Something terrible happened. Yeah? Yeah. I was showing Captain Flagg how I was going to hypnotize Sergeant Bliss. And before I knew it, I had Flagg hypnotized. Now, where's that book? I left it in the library. Well, let's go find it. You gotta help me get Flagg out of this thing. Okay. Read your handbooks for a few minutes, fellas. I'll be right back.
Did you guys hear what Sergeant Quake told Corporal Gowdy?
No.
Well, I did, and I very
What can you expect? You don't mean droop. You mean drop.
Well, what can you expect from a trip?
Captain Flagg has been hypnotized.
Hypnotized?
Yeah, he's in a transom.
I never understood much about that stuff.
Well, it's the way that you put people in a coma.
Well, ain't that hard to do?
Not when you know how. Say, for instance, you wanted to hypnotize me. You would just stare in my eyes and work on my unconscious mind.
Here's his office. I'll go in first.
I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour.
Oh, Captain, will you snap out of it? How do you feel, Captain Flagg?
I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour.
Oh, it's worse than I thought, Court. Well, maybe a sudden shock will bring him out of it. Pull his chair out from under him.
I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour.
I heard somewhere once that tickling would bring him out of it. Tickling? Well, let's try it. Take your shoes off and we'll tickle his feet. Okay. The other one, too. All right. Now, you tickle one and I'll tickle the other. So you take the right foot. I'm left-handed. Come on, Captain. Snap out of it. Can't you feel us tickling your feet?
Oh, I'm just a little wildflower. Going miles every hour.
Tickle harder, Goldie.
I'm tickling as hard as I can. Oh, I'm just a little wildflower. Going miles every hour.
Oh, this isn't doing any good. Maybe if we could make them mad, it would bring them to.
Well, slapping might help.
Well, we gotta do something. All right, let's start slapping them.
Okay. Gee, I hate to do this, poor Captain.
Well, we're doing it for him.
Doesn't seem to be doing any good.
It will. Keep it up.
What's going on here? Oh, it's General Erskine. Is this any way for you men to treat your commanding officer? I'm just a little wildflower. Growing milder every hour. The captain sprawled on the floor, his shoes off, and a sergeant and a corporal slapping his face. What's the meaning of this?
Well, Captain Flagg is hypnotized.
Hypnotized?
Yes, sir. And we're trying to bring him out of it.
We've tried everything, sir.
Yeah, I was showing Captain Flagg how I was going to hypnotize Sergeant Bliss, and, well, before I knew it, the captain was hypnotized.
And why should you want to hypnotize Sergeant Bliss?
Well, he's looking for me to punch me in the nose, sir, and I can't fight because I got a sprained wrist.
Then why don't you go to Bliss and tell him the truth about your wrist?
The truth? Well, that's an idea, sir. I never thought of that.
First, we must do something about Captain Flagg. I'm just a little wildflower, growing milder every hour. Here, help me sit him up here in this chair. There we are. The corporal, run over to the base hospital and get Dr. Cleary.
Yes, sir.
Feeling all right, Doctor, until you came along.
Well, it's lucky I came along. You're as good as dead.
You really mean that?
Mean it? Why, if any undertaker should come along now and see me talking to you, they'd start bidding for you. I hate to tell you this, but you got pulmonary strabismus.
Washington, the War Department gave the White House a preliminary estimate of 104 dead and more than 300 wounded tonight in the Army forces alone as a result of Japan's bombing of the island of Oahu. Neither figure included civilian casualties in the raid on Oahu, the principal island in the Hawaiian group. We return you now to Hollywood.
Jim.
That's the place to get to mighty power.
Jonah started rowing out to sea and soon met his pals, the three little fishes, who said,
Beep, bop, did and bottom, bottom, cheer.
I would even advise smoke glasses when you're reading Esquire. Read it, but don't try to lift it.
You mean my blood pressure is bad?
Well, I guess offhand it is about 220.
Well, is that too high?
Yeah, a little bit. Of course, everything is high these days. All you got to do is take it easy and don't exert yourself. Any strenuous exercise is a tax on your heart and lungs.
Well, that doesn't seem right.
Why not? There's a tax on everything else.
Why did the general have to suggest my finding Bliss and telling him the truth about my wrist? I'd rather take a punch in the nose than do this. But I guess it's the only way to keep from getting a punch in the nose. Well, here comes Sergeant Bliss now. Well, I better talk fast.
Hey, Quirt, I want to see you.
I want to see you too, Bliss.
I was looking for you, Quirt.
So was I. I don't mean I was looking for me. I mean I was looking for you.
Beautiful day, isn't it? Just smell that air.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I hope I can keep right on smelling it.
Blue skies, sun shining, birds singing in the trees. That's wonderful to be alive.
What are you alive with?
You know, it's silly to have a grudge against anybody. I'd rather be kind and sociable. Did I tell you I just found out I had a bad heart?
When did you find that out?
About 10 minutes ago. Mustn't overexert myself or have any excitement.
Well, I certainly wouldn't take advantage of you if you were in that condition.
You mean you're willing to be friends?
Why, sure.
Then the two best top sergeants in the Marines ought to shake hands.
Oh!
Look out, that's my sprained wrist.
Two fine doctors and a reputable psychiatrist can't do anything about Captain Flagg's condition. I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour.
As an active psychiatrist for over 20 years, this case of hypnotism is the most baffling of any I've ever witnessed. Isn't the out of it yet, sir?
I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour. The doctors have tried everything, Sergeant, but nothing seems to do any good.
May I try something, sir?
It's useless, but you may try.
Thank you, sir. Captain Flagg. Captain.
I'm just a little wildflower growing milder every hour.
Flagg, there's a beautiful blonde here to see you. She's the most gorgeous girl you ever saw. She's crazy about you. Give me a glass of water, somebody. She's mad about you. She's crying because you won't talk to her. Here's the water, Sergeant. Don't let her cry. Can't you feel her tears dropping on your cheeks? Can't you feel her patting your face? Can't you feel her stroking your head? Well, this little blonde is crazy about your Flag.
Oh. Hello, Crat.
Where's the blonde?
I thought that would bring you out of it.
Flag and Sergeant Quirt will return in just a moment. Gentlemen, you know it's always important to look your very best, to keep your face looking smooth and well-groomed. And it isn't difficult. In fact, it's extra easy the Menon way. See for yourself. Just try the quick 3-step Menon shave. Now, here's how you do it. Step number 1. Use your favorite of the 3 Menon shave creams. Brushless, plain, or mentholized lather. Each is the finest of its kind. Step number 2. Pep up your face with Menon Skin Bracer, America's most popular aftershave lotion. It's refreshing, soothing, and how the ladies like its subtle aroma. Step number 3, the important finishing touch. Menon Talcum for Men, America's favorite. Takes the shine off your face, but its neutral tint doesn't show. And that's the 3-step Menon shave, gentlemen. Menon Shave Cream. Menon Skin Bracer. Menon Talcum for Men. Man to man, it's Menon. For men in the U.S. services and for men at home, this Christmas give Menon gift boxes. They're handsome, practical, outstanding value. Each gift box contains everything for the perfect shave. The 3-step Menon shave. Choose from 4 different boxes, each with a picture cover painted by a famous artist. 3 Menon gift boxes are priced at only $1.25 each. The big deluxe box sells for $2. Here or in Canada, see your druggist for these outstanding gift boxes for men by Menon.
You know, Flag, I admire you. You're very understanding.
A captain has to be understanding.
A captain? Well, you could be a major. All you'd have to do is to see the right people in Washington.
Sure, it'd be a cinch.
And with your physique, you could be the best-dressed officer in the Marines. All you'd have to do is to see the right tailor.
Yeah, there's nothing to it.
And you could be the handsomest man in camp if you see the right barber.
You really think so, Quirt?
Sure. But if you ever want to be a wildflower, see me.
Captain Flag and Edwin Lowe as Sergeant Quirt in the humorous side of military life. Written by John T. Medberry and presented each week at this time by the Menon Company, the greatest name in shaving. Original music on tonight's program was composed and directed by Lou Kozloff. Hal Gibney speaking from Hollywood's Radio City. Christmas seals are the stamps that help fight tuberculosis. Your contribution to the health and strength of our nation. Buy your Christmas seals today. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
We will interrupt all programs to give you latest news bulletins. Stay tuned to this station.
The Jell-O program brought to you by Jell-O and Jell-O Pudding, starring Jack Benny with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Dennis Day, and yours truly, Don Wilson. The orchestra opens the program with the Gay Ranchero. Convenient way to buy Jell-O, ladies and gentlemen, is to get several packages at a time and use them as you want them. And with the new Jell-O, you can do this without any fear that your supply of Jell-O will lose flavor and freshness as it stands on the pantry shelf. You can now buy a dozen packages of Jell-O at one time and know that they will all stay at the peak of their goodness until you want them. Because today, Jell-O's flavor is locked into the Jell-O particles by an exclusive Jell-O process. The tiny Jell-O particles deliver their full-strength flavor to you intact. Now prove it for yourself. Open a package of Jell-O. Notice that there's no telltale aroma, no sign of escaping fragrance and flavor. But the instant you dissolve the Jell-O, you unlock its captive flavor, and out it pours in all its original richness. Tomorrow when you order Jell-O, order several packages. Get all of Jell-O's 6 delicious flavors, and always have a full assortment on hand from which to choose. You can keep Jell-O as long as you please. Its flavor doesn't go away. We put it in, and it's there to stay. Was the Gay Ranchero played by the orchestra. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my very great honor to bring you a man who last Sunday on this program gave you what was undoubtedly the finest performance of his acting career.
That's right, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
So without further ado, I give you the only actor in America who can make Jekyll and Hyde sound like Brenda and Cobina, Jack Benny.
Hello again, this is Jack Benny talking, and Don, that may be your idea of a funny introduction. But to ridicule my performance of last Sunday, which everyone hailed as a dramatic nugget, that really burns me up.
Now, take it easy, Jack. I thought you played the part well enough, but I happened to see the picture, and I didn't think you were as good as Spencer Tracy.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, Don, let me ask you something. Who signs your check every week? Spencer Tracy or the Benny Goose that lays the golden egg? Take that as my thought for today.
But, Jack, you don't seem to understand.
Oh, no.
When Spencer Tracy played the part, there was a decided difference between both characters. But when you did it, I couldn't tell your Jekyll from your Hyde.
Well, you can't tell your stomach from an igloo. So what do you know about it? A fine pal you turned out to be.
Now, Jack.
And don't call me Jack. From now on, you will please address me as Mr. Benny, and I'll call you Mr. Wilson. Is that clear?
Oh, I think you're being very childish about the whole matter. Absolutely childish.
Don't try to bring my age down. Flattery won't help. Remember that, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson? Who's Mr. Wilson?
That hulk over yonder. Listen, Mary, you witnessed my performance last week. What did you think of it?
Well, personally, I thought you were very good as Georgie Jessel.
I wasn't Jessel, I was Jekyll. Dr. Jekyll.
Well, in that case, phooey.
Phooey? What do you mean, phooey? I don't get it.
All right, take the word lovely and fool around with us.
Let's see. Lovely. lively, low, Mr. Benny to you. And let me remind you and Mr. Wilson of something that you both may have forgotten. When I switched from Dr. Jekyll to that horrible Mr. Hyde and that gruesome look came over my face, women in the audience screamed. One of them even fainted.
Well, it won't happen today. They caught that mouse.
Oh, then I guess I can take these bicycle clips off my pants. However, as long as you and Don are in such a critical mood, I'd like to point out that Christmas is only 18 days away.
Why else did you come in mad at everybody?
All right, keep it up. You know, I already bought your Christmas present, young lady, but I may exchange it for something cheaper.
Something cheaper?
Yes.
They don't dig a bargain basement that deep.
Well, you worked in more of them than I did. I can go along with a ouch. You do that once more, Miss Livingston. There'll be a... Oh, hello, Dennis.
Oh, Mr. Benny. Gee, was that a performance you gave last week? Was that a performance?
Well, thanks, Dennis. I'm glad you liked it.
Not only me, my whole family thought you were wonderful.
That's nice. I'm glad someone appreciated me.
Listen, Jack, the trouble with you is the minute you do something halfway good, it goes right to your head.
Mr. Benny was wonderful.
Quiet. Why, to hear you talk, Jack, anyone would think you were the biggest ham in Hollywood.
Oh.
I'd like to see a bigger one, by golly.
Well, thanks, Dennis. You tried. Anyway, you thought I was good.
Oh, marvelous. What a performance.
Well, look, kid. I'm making out my Christmas list today, so before singing your song, how about throwing out a few hints? What would you like Uncle Jack to get you?
Well, I thought of a few things, but they're pretty expensive.
Just name them. You're one person in this cast that deserves the best. Wait till I get my pencil here. Now, what do you want, Dennis?
Well, I'd like to have a nice gray suit with a pinstripe.
Okay. One gray suit with pinstripe. Anything else?
Well, I'd love to have a grand piano to practice my songs on.
Okay. One grand piano.
Are you sure you got lead in that pencil, Mr. Benny?
Yes. Now, what else do you want, Dennis?
Well, I've always wanted one of those toy birds on a stick, and when you swing it around your head, the bird goes...
Okay. One bird on stick. Now, what else do you want?
Oh, stop, will you? You're just trying to make Don and me jealous. Dennis isn't going to get all that stuff.
Well, he's getting something he wants.
Gee, I wonder what it is.
I'll give you a hint, kid.
Don't spoil the surprise, for heaven's sake. Now, go ahead with your song, Dennis.
Okay.
Hold it a minute. Come in.
Mr. Benny?
Yes?
I want to congratulate you on your performance as Mr. Hyde last week. I was so frightened, my hair stood on end.
Your hair? What hair?
Right there. Stand up, Herman.
Oh, get out of here. Herman. Well, I suppose if you only got one hair, you might as well have a name for it. Sing, Dennis.
that trembles on the brink of a lovely song. You are the angel glow that lights a star, the dearest things I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, a special announcement. The entire regular personnel of the sheriff's and police office has been placed on a 2-platoon basis with 12-hour shift. All auxiliary personnel has been directed to stand by for emergency service instructions. The regular county defense program is functioning in an orderly manner, and citizens are urged to remain calm and avoid all unnecessary confusion because of hysteria. Citizen volunteers are asked to go quietly to their nearest police or fire stations and offer their services if they wish to help. There is no immediate cause for alarm, and coolness will accomplish more than anything else.
A medley of Everything I Love and All the Things You Are, sung by Dennis Day. Very good, Dennis, but what's the idea of singing 2 songs today, huh?
Well, Mr. Benny, I've got 2 girls, and I thought I'd dedicate a number to each of them.
2 girls? Well, that's modern youth for you. You know, Dennis, when I was your age, I was satisfied with only 1 girl. Gussie Bagelquist. Gussie was a dream, yeah.
Is that the girl you sued because she cut you with her buck teeth?
I never sued her. I just told her to get a brace on. Anyway, I was talking to Dennis.
Whatever happened to your girl, Mr. Benny?
Gussie? Oh, I went into vaudeville, and she went away to veterinary college. We sort of drifted apart. She's one of the biggest horse doctors in northern Illinois now. Doing very well, too.
Do you keep in touch with her, Mr. Benny? Do you ever write to her?
Oh, once in a while when he has a cold or something.
Yeah, I had a touch of the flu a couple of weeks ago, and she sent me some pills that were as big as baseballs. And some liniment to rub on my withers. One thing about Gussie, though, I never get a bill from her. That's... Well, Look who's here.
Hiya, Jackson. How's my pal?
Don't Jackson or pal me, Mr. Harris. Let me ask you something. Did you or did you not go into the Brown Derby after last Sunday's show and tell people that my acting was putrid?
Last Sunday? Maybe I did. I say that lots of times.
Well, you did. You told everybody at your table that I was very bad as Jekyll and Hyde.
How do you know?
Because I've got a waiter there that spies for me.
Naturally, you couldn't tip a waiter just for waiting on you.
Mary, that's a little arrangement between Andre and me.
Yeah, I should have known that waiter was a spy. His mustache fell on my soup.
He wearing a false mustache? I told him not to overdo it. Anyway, Phil, you did run down my performance.
Yeah, but I changed my mind about that. You know, I met one of the greatest dramatic actors in this town last night, and he said you were great. Orson thought you were terrific.
Who, Orson Welles?
No, Orson Buggy. Ain't that a Lou?
Well, that settles it. If I don't get Glenn Miller in my stocking Christmas morning, I'll never write another letter to Santa. And incidentally, Mr. Harris, you better have a good excuse for coming in late today.
Well, I'm sorry, Jackson, but I was out shopping. Say, Mary, you know what I'm getting Alice for Christmas this year?
No, what?
A roaster.
A roaster, say.
You know, for the oven.
That's a roaster. Buys his wife a roaster for Christmas and calls it a roadster.
All right, I'll put wheels on it. That's a Sharpie, eh, Jackson?
It's a Sharpie, eh, Jackson? Sharpie. And don't call me Jackson. I'm Mr. Benny to you and to everybody else on this program except Dennis.
You mean I can call you Jack?
Yes, until I make up with the others. What burns me up, I worked my head off on that play last week and did a swell job.
You sure did, Jack.
And this little episode just shows me who my friends are.
That's telling them, Jack.
After all, I had to follow a pretty good actor in that part, Spencer Tracy. Why, I would never have even tried it if we both hadn't won the Academy Award.
Wait a minute. When did you ever win the Academy Award?
And another thing.
I said, when did you ever win the Academy Award?
And another thing.
Answer my question. When did you win the Academy Award?
I wish I had, brother. Would I have you in a spot? I guess that takes care of you.
You said it, Jackie.
Look, Dennis, just Jack, not Jackie. Give him an inch. You want to take a whole foot? What a gang. I got a good mind to go home.
Oh, for goodness sake, Jack, will you stop acting like a baby? You ought to know the whole thing was a rib.
Oh, sure.
As a matter of fact, I liked your performance in Jekyll and Hyde so much that I wrote a sequel to it.
Well, ain't you the fat little Noel Coward? Who cares what you wrote?
And Jack, now get this. As a favor to me, I want you to play the leading part in this drama.
I'll tell him when he comes in. You can keep your old sequel.
But you've got to help me out, Jack. There's no one else in the cast with sufficient dramatic ability to handle it.
Look, I'm not going to... Dramatic, eh? Well, all right, Don, I'll do it.
I thought you were mad at him.
Never mind.
You'd go over Niagara Falls in a Dixie cup if someone told you it was dramatic.
What's dramatic about a Dixie cup? Don, you say you've written a sequel to Jekyll and Hyde?
Yes, Jack, but my play is called Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll.
Oh, well, that sounds interesting.
Here's the script.
Thanks. Just a second, Don. I'll give you a build-up. Chord, please. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Don Wilson, that eminent American author, has written another of his famous one-act plays. Take it, Don.
The scene is the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Homer D. Hyde in the thriving little town of Upper Plate, Indiana. It is 7:30 p.m. Curtain. Music.
Oh, dear, it's 7:30 and Homer isn't home yet. I wonder if his horse and buggy broke down. Gee, I hope it's one of his moods. Ah, here he comes now. Good evening, Homer, dear. You're a little late, aren't you?
All right, I'm late. And I'll be late any time I feel like it.
Aren't you going to kiss me, darling?
Kiss me every night a kiss. I'll kiss you with this umbrella.
Ouch!
I'm going to bed. Good night.
But, Homer, you haven't even said hello to the twins, Otto and Blotto. Say hello to Daddy, children. Hello, Daddy.
Hello, Daddy.
Oh, shut up. Oh, shut one more peep out of you kids and I'll kick your teeth out as soon as they grow in. I'm going to bed now.
But, Homer, darling, you haven't had your dinner yet.
Dinner, every night dinner. I don't want any dinner.
But, Homer, dear, at least have some dessert.
What kind of dessert?
I won't tell you, but I'm sure you like it. Here, have a dish.
Very well. I'll try it. But if I eat it and decide I don't like it, someone will be dead. Murdered.
He's eating the dessert. I do hope he likes it. If not, what will happen to me, and Otto, and Blotto?
Gee. Oh, boy.
Homer, speak to me. Speak to me.
Oh, my darling. That tasted so good. What is the name of that tempting and economical dessert with a new locked-in process?
Jell-O, dear, and it comes in 6 delicious flavors.
Strawberry, raspberry, cherry, orange, lemon, and white.
My sons, at last I love you. Well, Don, congratulations. You wrote a wonderful play.
But, Jack, without you, it would have been impossible. You were even better than last week.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Well, how about a band number, Phil?
Okay, Dowdy.
Hold it. Come in.
Well, Mr. Benny, you did it again.
Were you scared?
Look at Herman. He just won't go down.
What a head he's got. That's the only persimmon I ever saw with brown eyes. Play, Phil.
Another war bulletin. Shanghai. The Japanese took over the American Shanghai Power and Light Company this morning. A bulletin from New York. The Japanese news agency broadcast tonight the Japanese Foreign Minister, Shigenori Togo, summoned U.S. Ambassador Joseph C. Grew and handed to him Japan's reply to Secretary of State Cordell Hull's terms for peace in the Pacific. This news came hours after the bombing of Honolulu. We return you now to Hollywood.
Nango from Weekend in Havana, played by Blotto Harris, and that goes for the whole orchestra. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce that next week is a special attraction.
Gee, Mr. Benny, I can't get over the way you played Mr. Hyde just now. Was that a performance?
It thrilled you, eh, Dennis?
I'll say. That crazy laugh just sent shivers right through me.
Well.
The kid's right, Jackson. How'd you ever learn to do that?
Well, Phil, you just have to get into the mood and feel it. You have to imagine that you're a raving maniac.
When was the first time you ever did that crazy laugh, Jack?
Last year at Santa Anita, lost 3 races in a row.
Never mind.
When they caught him, he was chewing down the grandstand like a beaver.
Well, you'd be mad, too. So let's forget it. Now, as I started to announce, ladies and gentlemen, next week is a special attraction.
You know, Mr. Benny, I'd like to learn how to do that laugh so I can scare my girlfriend.
Oh, it's easy, Dennis.
Gee, I wish you'd show me how to do it, Mr. Benny.
Oh, I don't
Come
feel
on,
it.
Jackson, do that laugh for us again.
Well, look, Dennis, here's the way you do it. You've got to screw up your face and get it all distorted. Then you rip open your tie and shirt.
Well, don't you have to muss up your hair a little?
My hair?
You know, those 3 Hermans.
That's not important. Anyway, Dennis, once you're in this mood, you read a menacing line and then laugh. Now, get this. I'm going out for a walk now. A nice long walk. And when I come back, someone will be dead. Murdered. Murdered. Ooh.
What's the matter, Jack?
My jaw slipped out of place. Look at it.
His what?
His jaw slipped out of place.
Get a doctor. Hurry up.
What a performance!
Don't say that. Look at it. We call my doctor.
Dusty Bagelquist, Waukegan 8362.
Not her. Just someone in town. Now, take it easy, Jack. Take it easy. Oh, it hurts. Just hold still, Jack, and I'll snap your jaw back in place.
All right, hurry up, John.
Now, brace yourself.
Okay.
Thanks, Don. Dennis, the next time you want me to show you something, wait till the program's over.
Well, it's your own fault for showing off.
I wasn't showing off. Phil,
Well, I got a few left over from last week.
put those fish back in the piano. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as I started to announce before I dislocated my jaw, next week as a special attraction, the Benny Stock Company is going to present... Oh, now what? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Benny. This is Rochester.
What do you want?
Boss, it's no use. I tried and I can't get Carmichael to go to sleep.
Rochester, that polar bear's got to go to sleep. He's supposed to have been in hibernation over 10 days ago.
Uh-huh.
If Carmichael doesn't get to sleep by the middle of this month, he'll be a wreck in the spring. Where is he now?
Sitting up in bed reading Esquire.
Esquire? Well, take it away from him.
Oh, come now, boss. He's been around.
I mean, he's got to get to sleep. Now, Rochester, use a little psychology on him. Give him some warm milk. Give him some warm milk, put on his pajamas, and brush his teeth.
Would you mind repeating that slowly, please?
I said give him some warm milk.
Uh-huh.
Put on his pajamas.
Uh-huh.
And brush his teeth.
Uh-uh.
Rochester, what are you afraid of? That bear is as gentle as a lamb. He wouldn't bite you.
He wouldn't, eh?
No.
Then why am I the largest single user of Band-Aids in the USA?
Rochester, listen, Carmichael doesn't hate you. He likes you. He likes everybody.
Then what happened to the gas man?
Nothing happened to the gas man. Carmichael doesn't eat people.
You ought to see that letter he wrote Santa Claus.
What letter?
Dear Santa, please send a fat boy to read the meter.
Oh, stop making things up. Now, you keep Carmichael in bed, and when I come home, I'll sing Rockabye Baby to him. That'll put him to sleep.
Okay, so long.
So long.
Oh, say, boss.
Now what?
Are you coming home for dinner tonight?
Yes.
Well, that'll finish up the wild duck.
Good. So long. I gotta get that bear to sleep before Christmas, or he'll want a present. Play, Phil. Ooh, my jaw.
Friends, while you're looking through the December magazines in search of an idea for Aunt Martha's Christmas present, keep an eye open for this month's Jell-O page. A full page of Jell-O treats illustrated in such rich, glowing colors that it makes your mouth water just to look at it. One of the desserts is called Jack Benny's Special Apricot Ring, and honestly, friends, I think it's just about the grandest-looking dessert Jell-O ever made. It's an easy recipe, too. Just dissolve 1 package of lemon Jell-O in 1 1/4 cups of hot water. Next, add a dash of salt and 3/4 of a cup of syrup from the canned sliced apricots. Then chill until thickened and fold in 2 1/2 cups of the sliced apricots themselves. When molded, serve with a garnishing of whipped cream, apricot quarters, and green maraschino cherries. And there it is, a golden, glistening mold of juicy sliced apricots and sunny lemon Jell-O. Canned apricots and lemon Jell-O are being featured by many grocers all next week. So get them both and make up this delicious treat. Jell-O makes any gelatin recipe taste extra good because its locked-in flavor gives you all the flavor, always.
This is the last number of the 10th program in the current Jell-O series, and we will be with you again next Sunday night at the same time. Oh, Mary, you want to have dinner at my house tonight?
No, thanks. I've had so much of that duck, I'm a bigger quack than Gussie.
Don't pay any attention to her, Gussie. Good night, folks. Phil!
Tomorrow, when you visit your grocer's, look at the shelf where you always see those familiar packages of Jell-O. Right beside them, or very near them, you'll spy another Jell-O product. Jell-O puddings in 3 grand flavors: chocolate, vanilla, and butterscotch. You might try Jell-O butterscotch pudding. It's as smooth as cream and simply full of rich, golden butterscotch flavor. A pudding that your whole family will want to enjoy again and again. So when you order Jell-O, order Jell-O puddings, too. They're just like Grandma's, only more so. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
This episode of Joe's Retro Radio is brought to you by Wishing Stars Native Creations, Fine Art Today, and Marshall Woodworking. Check out these companies and many more by going to the Friends page at tinyurl.com/Gunther's House or tinyurl.com/Gunther Mobile.
Kraft presents The Great Gildersleeve. Each week at this time from Hollywood, California, Kraft presents Harold Perry as the Great Gildersleeve, written by Leonard L. Levinson. We'll hear from the Great Gildersleeve in just a moment. But first, what if you hadn't ridden in an automobile since the old Model T days? And then a friend gave you a ride in a fast, smooth-running modern automobile. Wouldn't that convince you there'd been some changes made? Well, if you haven't tasted margarine for a good long time, you'll get that same kind of surprise when you try Parquet margarine. The margarine that's made by Kraft. Yes, you just can't imagine how downright good tasting modern margarine can be till you've tried delicious Parquet. That's why with food prices rising, so many housewives are using Parquet margarine. Serving it at the table, using it for baking and pan frying too. Because this modern margarine, Parquet margarine, not only has a delicate, satisfying flavor the whole family loves, it's also an economical source of food values the whole family needs. Yes, Parquet margarine is a wholesome, highly nutritious energy food. And every pound contains 9,000 units of important vitamin A. So don't make up your mind about any margarine till you found out how good, delicious, nourishing Parquet is. Tomorrow, sure, ask your dealer for Parquet. Parkay. And now let's visit our friend, the Great Gildersleeve, as he and Marjorie and Leroy wait in the Summerfield Railroad Station for the arrival of that well-known authoress, lecturer, and second cousin, Octavia Gildersleeve.
Recognize Cousin Octavia?
Oh, yes, my dear. Although I haven't seen her for years, her face comes back to me frequently in nightmares.
Gee, what does she look like, Unc?
Well, Leroy, did you ever see the USS Idaho in a bad storm?
No.
Then stick around till she gets off.
She's been very successful as a writer, hasn't she?
Yes. She's the author of Is Your Child a Problem, or Why Bring That Up? Yes, she was first to advocate a policy of never striking a child except in self-defense.
How long is Cousin Octavia going to be here, Uncle Mort?
Just between trains. She's on a lecture tour and has to hop around the country. Seems her new manager doesn't know much about geography. He booked her alphabetically.
How's that?
She's on her way from Akron to Albuquerque. And from there she goes to Altoona, Pennsylvania, then Amarillo, Texas, and then Atlantic City.
Gee, at that rate, you won't get to talking Summerfield for years.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Oh, and there she is. Well. Hello, Octavia. I'm Throckmorton.
Oh, Throckmorton. Well, let me look at you. Now turn around.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'd have known you any place.
Yes. This is Marjorie and Leroy, and this is your cousin Octavia.
Oh, hello, Cousin. How's everything on the Idaho, Cousin Octavia? Idaho?
You mean exactly. You got his battleship mixed. I mean, how is Cousin Sibley? Still got his seat on the stock exchange?
Oh, no, he lost it.
Yeah. How's your little daughter, Lulabelle?
Oh, you mean Barbara Ann? Well, here she is, right here.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to bring her along. Children, meet your little cousin.
Barbara Ann. Here's Cousin Throckmorton, Cousin Marjorie, and Cousin Leroy.
I am very pleased to meet you, Cousin Throckmorton, Cousin Marjorie, and Cousin Leroy.
Oh, isn't she just a little doll? I do hope you can come home for lunch. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Marjorie, but our train for Albuquerque leaves in 6 or 7 minutes. Oh, that's too bad. We would have enjoyed having you. Well, I would have liked to, but when one's public makes as many demands upon one as mine does on me, well, one must flit about like a butterfly, mustn't one?
Quiet, Leroy.
I didn't say anything.
Oh.
However, I'll be returning this way again next week, and if you're really determined to... Well, Barbara Ann can stay here with you, and I'll pick her up next Thursday.
Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, that'll be splendid, my dear.
Oh, now, isn't that nice? And won't you have a good time, Barbara Ann?
I don't know. Will I, Mother?
Of course you will.
Yes.
And I know just what room we'll give you, too.
So do I. My room.
Yeah.
Now. Oh, isn't that hospitable of Leroy? Oh, dearie, now that you've whipped us off our feet, I'm a little sorry I let you persuade me. But you must promise to take good care of Mother's little treasure.
Now, Octavia, you needn't worry yourself into a new set of wrinkles. We'll take good care of her. She's as welcome as long as she wants to stay here. By the way, how soon will you be back to pick her up?
Well, let's see. Oh, in a week or 8 days at the most. Now, there are Barbara Ann's bags. Here's her music portfolio. Now, be sure she practices her piano and vocalizing every day, won't she?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, now, Barbara Ann, before Mother gets on the train, I want one little word alone with you, darling. You'll excuse us, won't you?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Go right ahead.
Now, darling, I want you to promise me you'll be a good girl while you're visiting Cousin Throckmorton.
You know me, Mama.
Yes, I know you. That's why I'm warning you, young lady. Now, remember, no stuffing pillows in chimneys like you did at Uncle Stanley's. Or painting the baby green, which you did at Aunt Sylvia's. I won't have it.
Really, Mother, don't raise your voice. It's so middle class.
Oh, sometimes I wonder if you're deserving of all I'm doing for you, Barbara Ann. Writing these books and making these lecture tours. You just don't seem to appreciate it.
Oh, pipe down, Mother. I'll lay on the floor and scream.
No more time for fond farewell, my dear. Cousin Octavia's train is ready to pull out. Now, Barbara Ann, I want you to be a brave girl.
We interrupt the program for a special bulletin. Tokyo, Monday, December 8th. Japan went to war against the United States and Great Britain today with air and sea attacks against Hawaii, followed by a formal declaration of hostilities. Japanese Imperial Headquarters announced at 6 a.m., that's 4 p.m. Sunday Eastern Standard Time, that a state of war existed among these nations in the Western Pacific as of dawn. Shortly afterwards, Domai announced that naval operations are progressing off Hawaii with at least one Japanese aircraft carrier in action against Pearl Harbor, the American naval base in the island. We return you now to the great Gildersleeve.
Don't you think so, Marjorie?
Well, if you would have asked me.
Leroy, nobody asked you.
Well, go ahead. Ask me, I dare you. Quietly, Roy. It was well done, Barbara Ann.
Yeah.
Can I have my quarter now?
Quarter?
Yes, I always get a quarter when I play. Sometimes my father gives it to me even before I'm finished.
Yes, I'm beginning to see why. Well, here you are, young lady. Now, you and Leroy run along somewhere and play.
All right, Uncle Mort.
All right, Uncle Mort.
What do you mean, Uncle Mort? He's just a cousin to you.
Lovely, innocent youth.
Oh, say, Uncle Mort.
Yes, Marjorie.
You haven't been trying on my hats, have you?
Don't be silly. I haven't had on a lady's hat since the last time I was. Of course not.
Oh, then it must have been Barbara Ann. And she's wrecked them.
Oh, my dear, not her. Why, she's a regular little angel. A little... Why, Leroy, what's wrong? What is it, Leroy? Where's Bertie this morning?
Oh, she's busy serving Barbara Ann her breakfast in bed. I had breakfast in bed at boarding school once. Some of the other guys filled my bunk with cornflakes. Meg told Bertie that she's had breakfast in bed ever since she was born.
Oh, well, I did too, up to a certain point. And they bought me a high chair. Yeah. Good morning, Bertie. Can I have my breakfast now, please?
Just as soon as I fixes some other eggs from Missy Barbara Ann. Missy Barbara Ann? Yes, sir. That's what she told for me to call her. And by the way, is the bandana handkerchief around here anywhere? She wants me to wrap my head up in one.
Bertie, I wish you'd stop playing topsy to her little Eva. Fix some breakfast for the rest of us.
I'm sorry, Miss Gilsleeve. I can't do it just now. I got the little girl's 2-minute eggs about 35 seconds too well done by mistake. And now she wants them rectified. Is that anything like scramble?
Oh, she just wants them done over again.
Say, Bertie, have you got my lunch back yet? Oh, I know there's something I just remembered. I'll fix it for you the minute I finish giving Barbara Ann her manicure.
Oh, yes, those pale hands she loves so well, yes.
Keepers, I gotta leave for school right now. You better give me some money to buy lunch.
Yes, all right. Here's 30 cents. Will that be enough?
Too much. Here's a dime back. I don't think I'll be able to eat more than 4 hot dogs. Young man, don't you dare eat 4 hot dogs. Have something else, too. Okay, 2 hot dogs and 2 hamburgers.
We shouldn't let things like this happen around here, Bertie. What are you looking for, Bertie?
Oh, I gotta find some paper and a pencil, Mr. Gilsleeve.
Paper and a pencil? What do you want them for?
Well, I don't know exactly why myself. So Miss Barbara Ann done told me she wants me to draw her a band. All right, Barbara Ann, but Uncle Mort's going to be pretty angry when he comes home and finds out what you've done. Oh, Leroy, don't be so juvenile. Well, certainly when he sees how nicely I've washed out all his pipes. It smells so much sweeter now. Oh, it's bad enough putting them in soap and water, but spraying them with Marjorie's perfume was just too much. Well, you just wait and see, Smarty. Oh, I'm so bored. What do we do now? Well, I don't know what you're going to do, but I got to go down and have my hair cut. Oh, good. I'll go along with you. And after you're through, you can take me to the drugstore for an ice cream soda. Nothing doing. What do you think I am, made of money? I took you there yesterday for a soda, and you had 3 of them. Gee, you drank up my allowance for 3 weeks and half an hour. But you have 50 cents now. I saw Cousin Throckmorton give it to you. That's for my haircut. Well, I don't see why you have to throw away your money in barber shop when I can give you a lovely haircut myself. You? Oh, yes. I cut my father's hair all the time. Oh, I don't believe you. I'll just cut your hair to prove it. After all, I owe it to you. What do you mean you owe it to me? Well, you've been so nice to me. I want to earn this $50 so I can treat you. Gee, I don't know. Oh, come on. Don't be so adolescent. Okay, but well, what do you mean I'm adolescent? I had them taken out the same time they took out my tonsils.
We interrupt the program to bring a report from the Panama radio. A Jap aircraft carrier was sunk off Honolulu, according to the Panama radio. May we repeat that? According to the Panama radio, a Jap aircraft carrier was sunk off Honolulu, according to Panama radio. We return you now to Hollywood. Nice, because after dinner, Leroy, take off your cap.
Well, okay.
Oh, my goodness, put it back on again. Now take it off a little at a time so I get used to it. Now, see here, Leroy.
Now, if you'll just let me explain, Unc, I didn't go to any barber.
I'll say you didn't. That man wasn't even a good butcher.
You still don't get it, Unc. This was a homemade job.
Yes, Cousin Throckmorton. I tried my best to persuade Leroy not to do it, but he insisted on cutting his hair himself.
Oh, me? Yes, you.
No, you did.
Oh, Leroy, how could you? Now, see here, Barbara Ann.
Take your fist out of your little cousin's face, Leroy. It's unsanitary. Now, what's the meaning of all this?
Well, Leroy said he wanted to use the haircut money to buy ice cream sodas with.
What a liar.
And so at first he tried to get me to cut his hair for him.
What? Wait till I get you outside, barbed wire, Annie.
And then for clippers, he used your electric razor. Oh, he got jammed up and smoke started coming out. And it got so hot I couldn't hold it. Oh, I mean, he couldn't hold it.
See? Are you sure you're telling the truth, Barbara?
Oh, of course, Cousin Margie. Leroy made me do it.
Now, I guess I made you grab up the 50 cents and run down to the drugstore and eat 5 sodas in succession, too.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Call up the drugstore, Uncle Mort, and find out who they had to use the stomach pump on.
Barbara Ann, was it you?
Sure it was. He came back and told me all about it. The little glutton was gloating.
This conversation is becoming too utterly vulgar. In fact, it has ceased to be amusing.
What's gotten into her? I don't know whether it's hepburn or heartburn. Come back here, young lady.
Yes, Barbara Ann. Now, you behave yourself. And sit down.
Oh, very well.
We'll go into this thing later. I haven't got any time now. That old goat Judge Hooker will be butting in here any moment.
Who's Judge Hooker?
He's the probate judge who has to approve Uncle Mort's administration of our estate.
Yes. I want that legal buzzard to okay my annual report.
Oh, that must be him now. I'll answer it.
Oh, hello, Judge Hooker. You come in.
Hello, Marjorie.
Yes, Tim, all right. Leroy, maybe you better put your cap on again. Yes, that's much better. This way the old forest plaster. Oh, hello there, Judge. How are you this evening?
Pretty spry, pretty spry.
Huh?
Hello, Leroy.
Hello.
Well, who's this dainty little Miss Gildy?
Oh, this is little Barbara Ann Gildersleeve, Judge. Barbara, this is Judge Hooker.
Oh, this Judge Hooker?
Yeah?
Why, somehow I expected you to have a little white chin whisker from what Cousin Throckmorton said.
Yeah, well, what did I say that gave you that impression, child?
Didn't you say he was an old goat?
What's this?
It's just a little cold, Judge. Barbara, wouldn't you like to sing Pale Hands on the Piano for the judge?
You mean so he'll okay a report?
You?
What's this? Is that the reason you invited me to dinner, Gildersleeve?
Oh, no, Judge, not at all.
I chose if I thought that was the case, I'd turn you down flatter than a stranded soprano.
Barbara, I think we've heard enough.
So do I.
Now, please leave the room, young lady.
All right, Cousin Throckmorton. Glad to have met you, Judge Hooker.
Well, Gildersleeve, now that we're alone, take off your coat.
Now, Judge, don't be hasty.
Take off your coat, Gildersleeve.
I don't want to fight with you, Judge.
Neither do I, but the little brat's in to kick me sign on the back of your coat.
More war bulletins. London, Monday. The British Parliament was called into special session for 3 p.m. today to hear a government statement, which everyone agreed would be a declaration of war against Japan. That was expected to coincide with similar action by the United States. Sitka, Alaska. A blackout was ordered for tonight at this site of a naval air station as police officials began a roundup of questionable characters. We return you now to Hollywood.
Container. That child is her imagination. She's never been farther south than the first balcony is gone with the wind.
Oh, I think you're doing a poor little thing an injustice to.
What?
Okay. Any opinions I express are purely my own and not to be misconstrued by nobody else.
Bertie, I think we can leave you out of this conference.
Yes, I'll go, but why?
Well, I'm afraid you might turn into another Mata Hari.
Me? Why, thank you, Mr. Gildersleeve. That's the nicest compliment I've had in years.
Now, look, children. Cousin Octavia isn't due for 5 days yet. This is a desperate situation, and it needs desperate measures. I hate to do this. It doesn't set you a very good example.
What are you going to do, Uncle Mort?
I haven't the faintest idea. But whatever it's going to be, it won't be honest.
Can't we just take her out into the country someplace and lose her? Leroy, isn't that kind of a cat?
Martin.
That child has gotten me in wrong with every one of my boyfriends. See, that's tough to hear. Especially just before Christmas.
Yes. Hey, I know what we'll do. We'll send Cousin Octavia a telegram.
What kind of a telegram?
Well, listen to this. You better take this down.
Oh, okay.
Mrs. Octavia Gildersleeve, Fred Harvey Hotel, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Dearest darling Mama, I'm terribly, terribly homesick for you. I don't think I can stand it another minute longer.
I get lonesomer for you every day. Please come soon. Your loving daughter, Barbara Ann. Where'd you hear that, Mr. Llewellyn?
I don't wait.
Oh. Really? It doesn't sound anything like her.
Well, she's probably sick, suffering from lonesomeness.
Well, there's another relic of Barbara Ann to dispose of. I'm really coming to the end of my Gildersleeve.
Tough luck.
Well, now, let's see. I'll do my lecture tonight. By tomorrow, pick up my baby, go on to Altoona.
Mrs. Gildersleeve, we just had a wire saying the Altoona date is out, and they pushed up your Amarillo lecture.
Oh, of course. But that means I can't go to Summerfield for weeks.
That's correct.
Oh, and I can't leave my little girl with those unkind Summerfield relatives.
And why not play?
Well, I'm almost tempted. Oh, no. Mr. Llewellyn, I've got an idea.
Oh, no. When you get an idea in your head and a look in your eye, you better also get a new secretary on your payroll.
But who else have I got to turn to?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Gildersleeve. I'd swim the widest river. I'd climb the highest mountain. But Lucifer Llewellyn refuses to play nursemaid again to that little brat of yours, not for all the kangaroos in Australia.
But, Mr. Llewellyn, as my secretary, it's your job to go where I send you.
Oh, but Mrs. Gildersleeve, I'm allergic to your little girl. Don't you remember the time in Buffalo when she flew all my trousers out of the train window?
Oh, why, that was just one of her girlish pranks.
Planks, whips, lassos. There's been 100 similar peccadillos. It's enough to make a grown man cry. No, I won't do it. I won't go. Absolutely no.
Reports received by the Associated Press from Europe tonight said the German army was preparing an effort to take both Moscow and Leningrad and recapture Rostov within 2 weeks in a move linked with the outbreak of war in the Pacific. We return you now to Hollywood.
This is what you said in your telegram.
What telegram?
The one you sent begging your mother to rescue you from Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve.
I never sent any such message. Now you can go right back and tell her so.
This is just another twit. Now I got a taxi waiting outside, so you hurry and pack your luggage.
I'll do nothing of the kind. I like it here and I'm staying.
I'll just give you till I count to 3 to start getting ready. 1, 2, 3. 4.
All right, Lucifer, you wait here. I'll be right back. Oh, Cousin Throckmorton.
Yes?
There's the strangest man in the living room. He says he's my mother's secretary, and he wants me to go away with him. But I never saw him before in my life.
What? Are you sure?
Oh, yes. And he talks in the most suspicious way.
This looks serious, my dear. Might be a kidnapping. You stay here and I'll investigate. Now, don't get excited. Take it easy. Keep calm, keep calm, keep calm. Good day, sir. What did you want?
My name is Lucifer Llewellyn. I came to take Barbara Ann away.
Oh, you did, eh?
Yep, I'm her mother's secretary. She wants me to bring her to Amarillo.
Amarillo? I thought Octavia was passing through here on her way to Altoona.
Oh, no, she had to change her plan.
A what? Oh, her plan. Well, the first time I've heard of that.
First time you've heard of it?
Yeah.
Didn't you get a telegram saying I was going to arrive today?
No, I didn't, Mr. Llewellyn.
Oh, excuse me. The name is Llewellyn, not Llewellyn.
Yes.
Oh, dear, I wish this job was over already. I don't like it.
Yes, neither do I.
Look, I'll come right out and tell you. If this little brat gives me the least bit of trouble, I'm going to throw a flour sack over her head and wag her away.
Yeah. Oh. You are, eh?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Llewellyn, if you don't mind, I'd like to have you step right in here.
Sure, but this don't look like it.
In you go.
Help! You let me out!
I'm going to hold you for a while, Mr. Kidnapper.
Wait! Help! Please!
Yeah, I'll get you the police. By George, that's who I will get. Oh, who can that be? Yes, all right, I'm coming. Oh, telegram? Thank you, boy. Oh, now what's this? Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve, unable to pick up Barbara Ann myself, sending Secretary Mr. Llewellyn, Octavia. Oh, my goodness, this explains everything.
Let me out of here. Come on, you pretty one. Let me out of here.
Oh, coming, Mr. Llewellyn. It's all a mistake, sir.
Put up your dukes, Gildersleeve.
Yeah?
I'm going to wham-base you from here to next Friday. Come on, fight, you big palooka.
Now, calm down. Take it easy, Mr. Llewellyn.
What?
It's all a mistake.
Oh, it is?
Yes, until I got this telegram from Octavia, I thought you were a kidnapper.
What? Whatever gave you that erroneous impression?
Yes. Barbara Ann. She said she'd never seen you before.
That settles it. I'm through. I resign. I retire.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. Of course, you see the little girl back to her mother first.
I'll see her someplace else first. Goodbye, Throckmorton, and I hope I never see another Gildersleeve as long as I live.
More war bulletins. Washington. The Navy Department announced tonight that a censorship has been placed on all outgoing cablegrams and radio messages from the United States and its outlying possessions. Fort Lewis, Washington. All men who have been honorably discharged from the 9th Army Corps area during past months because of reaching the age of 28 were called back to active duty by the Army today. The men called back, including draftees, are members of the Active Reserve Corps. They were ordered to report to their induction board. This pertains to the northwestern states. We return you now to Hollywood.
What's this? Whoopee! Hooray! Merry Christmas! Happy New Year!
Lord, what is it? Yeah, tell us.
Cousin Octavia is flying to Atlantic City, and her plane stops at the airport for 5 minutes this afternoon. She wants us to have Barbara Ann there, ready to travel.
Marvelous. Oh, Barbara Ann. Yes, Barbara Ann.
Where are you, Barbara Ann?
Yes, Uncle Mort.
I guess we're all ready to go to the airport.
I don't want to go. I want to stay here. I'm not going.
Oh, you're not going, eh? Yes, you are, young dear. We've got plenty of time. Just a whole hour before that plane arrives. We're going to be on the safe side and get there early.
No, I want to stay here. I'll be good.
Yes, well, I guess I'll have to pick you up then and carry. Oh, excuse me a moment, Barbara Ann. Hello?
Throckmorton.
Yes?
This is Octavia.
Oh, hello, Octavia. Whereabouts are you phoning from?
From the airport. Why aren't you down here?
The airport? What are you talking about? Your plane isn't due until 4:35.
It's after 4:35 now. It's almost 4:40. What's the matter? Didn't you get my telegram? Why haven't you got Barbara Ann down here to go on the plane?
Oh, my goodness. Our clock's an hour slow. Wait there, Octavia. We'll be right down.
I can't. The plane is ready to take off. I've got a lecture in Atlantic City tonight. Oh, my goodness, they're calling for me.
When do you come back?
In another 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Yes, oh, I've got a headache.
What happened, Uncle Mort?
Our clock was an hour slow. Somebody's been fooling around with our clock. And I think I know who it was.
No. No, not me, Uncle Mort. I didn't do it.
This time you're going to get what's coming to you, young lady. You come here.
No, you wouldn't dare.
Oh, no? I want you to know that this is going to hurt you a lot more than it hurt me. Hail and by love, each side in Calabar. There, young lady. That'll teach you to monkey with clocks.
Oh, by the way, Uncle Mort, Barbara Ann didn't do it. Don't you remember? It was you.
What? Oh, my goodness, it was. Leroy, why didn't you stop me?
Well, Uncle Mort, it's a funny thing, but I didn't think of it till after you were finished.
You're a bright boy, Leroy.
The great Gildersleeve will be with us again in a few minutes. But right now, I think you'll agree that there's one sure way to find out if you like something, and that's to try it yourself. So I want to suggest a little experiment, one that may mean a lot to you in the high-priced days ahead. Tomorrow, get a pound or two of Parquet margarine, the delicious modern margarine made by Kraft. Take it home and serve it at the table. Use it for baking and pan frying. Yes, use Parquet margarine in every way, and I think you'll be amazed at how downright good a modern margarine can be. You see, Parquet margarine is no ordinary margarine. Parquet margarine is the result of Kraft's long experience in making quality food. Yes, taste Parquet margarine once, and you'll know the difference. Parquet's delicate, appetizing flavor is sure to satisfy.
The World Today. By shortwave radio, Columbia now brings you reports from its foreign correspondents overseas with summaries of the latest world news presented over these stations by Golden Eagle Gasoline. Go ahead, New York.
The details are not available. They will be in a few minutes. The White House is now giving out a statement. The attack apparently was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu. The President's brief statement was read to reporters by Stephen Early, the President's secretary. A Japanese attack upon Pearl Harbor naturally would mean war. Such an attack would naturally bring a counterattack. And hostilities of this kind would naturally mean that the President would ask Congress for a declaration of war. There is no doubt from the temper of Congress that such a declaration would be granted. This morning, Secretary Hull talked with the Secretaries of War and of the Navy. Now the two special Japanese envoys, Admiral Nomura and Special Envoy Caruso, are at the State Department engaged in conference with Secretary of State Hull. Their appearance at the State Department on this Sunday afternoon emphasizes the gravity of the Far Eastern situation, where hostilities now seem to be actually opening over the whole South Pacific. Even more important than the visit of Tokyo's diplomats is this news which comes from Pearl Harbor and the news which comes from South Asia. Whatever the diplomats from Tokyo or the cabinet in Tokyo may be saying, there is a conviction in official quarters here that Japan has now cast the die. All the bits of information which came to the State Department and the Navy yesterday and today indicated that Japanese transports containing troops were steaming into the Gulf of Thailand. Japanese warships were providing a heavy escort. Having rounded the southernmost point of French Indochina, the convoy had as its only obvious destination Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. It was on the basis of this information that President Roosevelt sent to Emperor Hirohito of Japan his personal message last night, a message which appealed to the Mikado for restraint and peace. It seemed to be a final plea from the United States. And if the activities today are substantiated, it is a final plea. For if Japanese troops attempt to capture Bangkok or attack Pearl Harbor, the delicate balance which has maintained peace in South Asia is destroyed. The four powers, the United States, Britain, the Dutch East Indies, and Australia, have given Japan ample warning that invasion of Thailand would mean counteraction by the associated powers. These Japanese envoys, Nomura and Kurusu, requested the appointment with Mr. Hull today. The engagement was set for 1:45 p.m. They arrived some minutes late and in turn were kept waiting before the door to Mr. Hull's office was opened to them at 2:20. In the meantime, the President had prepared the statement which announced that Japan was attacking Pearl Harbor from the air. It is possible that the Tokyo diplomats wanted again to assure the State Department that the reports of Japanese troop movements in French Indochina were exaggerated. They did that once before on instructions from Tokyo when the President propounded his question about those movements last Tuesday. At that time, Tokyo replied that the movements were in North Indochina to offset Chinese movements on the Indochina border. The specific information of the State Department now and then was that the bulk of the Japanese troops were being moved to South Indochina, where they were in a better position to threaten Thailand. The President's plea to Emperor Hirohito was also supported by a note of warning. The warning is supported by developments and preparations in this capital. The meeting between Secretary Hull and the Secretaries of War and Navy this morning was an example of the plans that are being laid. It would be a mistake for Japan to believe that these preparations are any kind of bluff. Although officials in Washington are silent on what would be the definite consequences of a Japanese attack on Hawaii or an attack on Thailand, there are indications of what is being considered and the steps which may be taken this very afternoon. The first would be a severance of diplomatic relations with Tokyo. An immediate naval blockade in which the American Navy would take a leading part, along with British units, is the other probability. Both these steps could be taken by the President on his own executive authority. But an effective naval blockade, of course, could not continue long without hostilities. As a matter of fact, according to the President's announcement, those hostilities are already underway with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And just now comes the word from the President's office that a second air attack has been reported on Army and Navy bases in Manila. Thus, we have official announcements from the White House that Japanese airplanes have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and have now attacked Army and Navy bases in Manila. We return you now to New York and we'll give you later information as it comes along from the White House. Return you now to New York.
London, in many respects, has correlated its moves in the Far Eastern situation with the progress of the American-Japanese discussions in Washington. Australia and Singapore and other Crown colonies have been made ready for any eventuality, and a Far Eastern fleet has been created, headed by the 35,000-ton Prince of Wales. For a direct report on British reaction to the latest moves in the Near East and the Far East, Bob Trout is standing by in the British capital. Go ahead, London.
London heard its first news of the attacks on Hawaii and the Philippines from John Charles Daly in New York just a few moments ago. The report had not arrived in London before this Columbia program began. It is, of course, too early to give you any reaction, but as you know, the British government made plain what would happen if America became involved in war with Japan some days ago. We did get earlier that official report from Singapore that British air reconnaissance in the South China Seas
had confirmed the earlier reports of Japanese activities. Japanese naval vessels, including cruisers, seen off the southern tip of Indochina, steaming toward the northwest. That announcement backed up those earlier dispatches from Washington telling of heavy Japanese troop concentrations in Indochina, both ashore and afloat. About the president's message to the Emperor of Japan, we heard nothing except the announcement that a message had been sent. Today's Libyan communique says that yesterday an important battle was joined southeast of Tobruk, where the main German tank forces have concentrated since breaking through the Tobruk corridor. These past few days, London newspapers have been full of discussions about Libya. Arguments about the caliber of guns and the thickness of tank armor, about tank speed versus tank weight, about the airplane as compared to the anti-tank gun as weapons of destruction against enemy tanks. Through these lengthy articles, there has run as the theme the conviction that Britain must counter the enemy's modern war technique with methods even more modern. Now, not all this recent discussion is adversely critical. Some think that the British armed forces have already learned a lot from hard experience in this war, but there are complaints that, for example, while British tanks in the desert lay up at night like a defensive circle of covered wagons out west, the desert darkness is lit up with the flares of the Panzer repair squads patching up damaged German tanks for the next day's battle. It is interesting that a great deal of this discussion centers on the employment of air power. In the Libyan fighting, the Royal Air Force has played a larger part than in any previous conflict. But many military writers are saying that British planes still do not play the same integral part in a tank battle that the German planes do. A typical comment is this from last night's Standard. Nobody in his senses would argue that the fleet should be without its own fleet air arm. So why do we send our soldiers out to fight without the same coordinated weapon? That is some of London's reaction to the Battle of Libya. Later, I believe, we shall hear a report on this broadcast direct from Cairo. The British are disappointed about the recent experience of Dr. Julian Huxley in the United States. Just yesterday, the latest issue of The Spectator came out with some observations about British speakers in America. It said that Dr. Huxley is a speaker who will soon wear down any suspicion of propagandism. The British people I've met in London do not seem to think much of propaganda anyway. They think Britain's cause is good enough to stand on its own feet without any trimmings. They're more interested in the enemy's propaganda, which frequently causes amusement in London. German claims are printed in London newspapers, and the airwaves over Britain are full of German radio programs. Listeners can tune in whenever they feel like it. A listener with a powerful receiving set soon discovers that the German radio speakers have one story to broadcast to one country and another quite different story to put out someplace else. Last night, for example, the German-controlled Norwegian radio announced that the United States Army has become converted to communism, at least to the extent of installing political commissars. Now, in case you had not heard that the United States Army is now being run by political commissars, I thought I'd pass it along, for that's what Norwegians were told last night. I return you now to Columbia in New York. To recapitulate, the White House reported today Japanese air attacks on the Hawaiian Islands and Manila in the Philippines. Now, following a week in which the North African campaign has seen only local actions and a regrouping of forces by both sides, Bob Trout reported, rather as he told you just a few moments ago, that there is a resumption of hostilities on a major scale. These reports from North Africa are interesting in the North African campaign, but of course the Far East still holds the center of the stage and will probably for some time. Here in the studio with me is Major George Fielding Elliott, Columbia's military expert, who will analyze now these latest developments in the Far East. Major Elliott.
The Japanese appear to be taking the offensive in an effort to delay and impede American operations in the Far East. Apparently confronted with a situation in which there was no escape except war, the Japanese have attacked the main American naval base in the Pacific at Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. This attack is by air and can only come from aircraft carriers, since the Japanese do not have any bases close enough to the Hawaiian Islands from which to launch land-based aircraft. This is a very great risk for the Japanese to place aircraft carriers within reach of the very powerful naval patrol bombers and the long-range Army bombers on the island of Oahu. It is a risk which would only be assumed as a very desperate measure, one which may well result in the loss of the carriers that are making the attack, but may also gain for the Japanese important time to carry out operations in the Far East because of the damage that they may inflict on the naval base and shipping in Oahu, and thus delay the proceeding of the United States Pacific Fleet to the Western Pacific. That is probably the Japanese object, and we don't know yet what success they've had in carrying it out. A Japanese air attack is also being made on Army and Navy installations at Manila in the Philippines. Manila and its surrounding area is also of military importance, but it's far less formidable in the character of its defenses than is the island of Oahu, and the Japanese consequently have a greater chance of getting away with the forces that they've have sent there to make these attacks. The Japanese have probably 7 aircraft carriers in commission and an unknown number of carriers converted from merchant vessels. There are at least 3 or 4 of these, and perhaps more, with comparatively small numbers of aircraft, but together they make a formidable concentration, and they can use and operate about 20 aircraft from these converted carriers and anywhere from 30 to 50 aircraft from their larger carriers. These would include both scouting and bombing aircraft as well as fighters to protect the carriers, but in a case like this, a desperate forlorn hope business, they've probably concentrated on bombers and put every bomber on board the carriers that they will handle. They're expecting to take heavy losses, and these losses may be expected. The question is how much delay they have purchased for the carriers that they have risked. Whether there will be an actual attempt at a Japanese landing on the island of Luzon to back up the air attack on Manila is not known. It is extremely unlikely that there will be any attempt at a Japanese landing on the island of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. It is hardly probable that a Japanese expedition carrying troops in sufficient numbers to attack Oahu with any hope of success could have proceeded across the Pacific without some notice of it being had by our naval authorities. Consequently, it seems likely that this is an air attack and purely a delaying action on Oahu only, but the attack on Manila may be one of more formidable proportions and may include troops. The Japanese policy apparently has been to delay as long as possible on the diplomatic front and to carry on their military preparations in the meanwhile, gaining as much time as they could. We've pointed out again and again in the course of these broadcasts that the Japanese were gaining time on the diplomatic front in order to improve their fighting chances, and this certainly is borne out by what has now happened. We just had a United Press flash. Oahu Island was attacked today by unidentified airplanes. That's another flash on the Japanese air attacks on Hawaii. Remember that Oahu is the military and political center of the Hawaiian group. The island itself is one of the most formidable maritime fortresses in the world. Heavy guns defend the ports of Pearl Harbor and Honolulu. Railway guns on tracks around the islands are able to be moved swiftly to any point. There is a very strong garrison, which even a year or two ago numbered about 25,000 troops, and probably now has been very considerably increased. There are powerful naval and Army air forces on the island, including some of the Army's longest-range bombers, 4-engine bombers based on Hickam Field, so that any appearance of any Japanese force in the neighborhood is likely to suffer very severely as soon as they can be located by these long-range bombers.
Continuing on the Far Eastern situation, this time we go abroad to get a report direct from the danger zone, from Manila in the Philippines, which has been attacked as we have told you. CBS correspondent Ford Wilkins has watched Manila get ready for this attack. And now, for the report of Ford Wilkins, direct from Manila, go ahead, Manila.
Thank you. The danger of panic is also great. With the bulk of the population shifted, there is sufficient shelter and protection to make the city safe enough for those who remain. Whether war comes or not, the government is seriously considering closing the schools and moving the children to evacuation centers where schools may be set up. One immediate government problem is to raise some $15 million to carry on. The original emergency fund is nearly exhausted. Manila's problems are reflected throughout the country, and they are acute in places which are considered danger zones. They are likewise reflected throughout this whole Pacific area, where war threatens. Hong Kong has mobilized completely and called out volunteers. Singapore's fighting forces are standing by, ready for anything. In Java, they have been preparing for many months. In Thai, the little buffer state between French Indochina and Burma, the tension reaches its highest point. Japanese troops are crowding it on the east, and the large movement of Japanese ships accompanied by cruisers has been spotted by British patrol flyers from Singapore, steaming up the Gulf of Siam towards Bangkok. Across the China Sea from the Philippines,
due to line troubles beyond... We return you now to CBS in New York.
Broadcast a description of the attack made upon Manila. To carry on with the subject that he started to talk about, the sighting of transporters, or rather transports and cruisers, believed Japanese in the Gulf of Siam, moving towards Thailand. There is news that comes also from our correspondent in Singapore. He says that there are strongest indications there that Japan was about to launch a joint naval and land attack upon Thailand with the immediate aim of capturing the capital, Bangkok. Brown confirms the earlier report of Japanese merchant and naval ships sighted off Pointe de Camo at the southern tip of Indochina and believed to have come from Saigon and Cam Bay. Major Elliott is still here in the studio beside us, and this report raises a point which I think perhaps he may be able to clear up for us. Major Elliott, do you think that this attack upon Manila and the attacks upon the Hawaiian Islands may be to cover the attacks to be made by these transports and cruisers sailing up into the Bay of Siam and supposedly sailing up there to attack Bangkok?
I think very likely that's the case, Mr. Daly. The Japanese would fear, above everything else, the arrival of the United States Pacific Fleet in those waters. When that got there, if Manila was still open to it, it would be able to cut the line of communications between Japan, between the home bases in Japan, upon which everything depends, and the Japanese armies in Indochina, which have no land connections at all with the main Japanese armies in China. So that the attack on Pearl Harbor is undoubtedly intended to delay the arrival of the Pacific Fleet by doing what damage is possible. And if the carriers that make it are sacrificed, why, that's just too bad.
Major Elliott, Cecil Brown, reporting from Singapore, also described British naval patrols as very active, and all units of the British Far Eastern Fleet, recently bolstered by the Prince of Wales, one of Britain's newest and biggest battleships, ready for instant action. Do you think that the units of the British fleets, which are now based at Singapore and which are cruising in the immediate area of the Gulf of Siam, will be sufficiently strong to at least hold off that attack of the Japanese, which is reportedly headed for Bangkok?
Well, so far only Japanese cruisers have been reported in the Gulf of Siam, and they would be likely to be cut off by British battleships operating from Singapore. But under the circumstances, one would be inclined to believe that the main Japanese battle fleet may be somewhere in the vicinity with the purpose of perhaps trying in turn to cut the British off if they attack the Japanese concentrations in the Gulf of Siam, hoping that these Japanese ships would be able to get back toward their home bases before the American Pacific Fleet would arrive. And in turn, there is the factor of the unknown effect as yet of the Japanese air attacks on Pearl Harbor, which are intended to delay the movements of the Pacific Fleet.
Well, have you any information, Major, on the British shore defenses in Sarawak and North Borneo? Do you think they can make any great difference in this action that seems to be pending in the Gulf of Siam?
I think very likely that there are air bases there of considerable capacity. There was nothing 2 years ago in North Borneo and Sarawak. But the British have been working lately around the island of Labuan and also on the shore, both in Sarawak and farther north in the British Crown Colony of British North Borneo. And they probably have increased the air capacity over there very considerably. There have also been reports that heavy guns have been mounted at one or two ports along that coast with a view to establishing harbor defenses to protect them against an immediate Japanese attack. However, the Japanese might attempt a landing in Borneo, and if they are going all out on this desperate basis, as they seem to be, they very likely will try to eliminate these air bases.
Well, now, Major, we have here a bulletin that has just come in which says that policemen and firemen were ordered in a radio broadcast to go to Army and Navy posts immediately at Honolulu. And it brings up the question of the distance between Hawaii and Japan, which, if I remember correctly, is somewhere around 3,800 miles. Would that indicate that the Japanese attacks upon Oahu were made from carriers, necessarily, or are there Japanese-mandated islands which would be sufficiently well-developed to house either seaplanes or shore-based aircraft?
No, there's nothing that's near enough to direct an attack of any force. The attack must have been made from carriers. The nearest Japanese possessions in the Marshall Islands are so far from Honolulu that it's impossible to direct any serious air attack. Long-range flying boats might do something, but the Japanese would have no reason to do that. That would be merely a pinprick, and it would have no serious effect. If the Japanese are attacking Hawaii, they're attacking it with a purpose of producing some substantial military effect, and the number of the fire effect that could be produced by what few long-range flying boats can operate from January and the Marshalls is just not sufficient for the purpose.
Well, can you perhaps give us some light on the reason why the Japanese used even a small part of their forces for an attack on Hawaii rather than concentrating all of their strength on Cavite in the Philippines, which might, since it's so much closer to Japan, it would seem at least be a more important point of attack?
Because the fleet's in Hawaii, and they hope to be able to damage the vessels in harbor and the installations at Pearl Harbor to such an extent that they can delay the eastward movement of the fleet, which, after all, is dependent on its supplies for the support of Pearl Harbor as a base. The more damage they can do to the base and to the ships that are still there, of course we don't know the exact disposition of the American fleet, the more they can delay any vigorous action by the United States fleet in the Western Pacific because of the distances and the supply problem. Incidentally, the movement of policemen and firemen to important posts in Honolulu suggests the possibility that there may be some sort of a rising among the Japanese population of those islands. There are 150,000 Japanese live in the Hawaiian Islands, and some of them may be inclined to make trouble. Our authorities are supposed to have had this problem very well in hand, and we don't know yet, of course, whether anything of the sort is true or not.
Thank you very much, Major Elliott. And now, Elma Davis, CBS News analyst, who was hurriedly called into our 17th floor studios as news of this new break in the Far Eastern situation came in, is ready to analyze to some extent the political effects of this latest move by Japan. Elma Davis.
Well, the most interesting thing, Mr. Daly, is that it was a week ago yesterday that the Japanese said they wanted 2 weeks more for negotiation. It was obvious that they were allowing themselves a limit, hoping that our military and naval forces would take them seriously, which obviously, we presume at least, they have not done. Since they only actually wanted 1 week, it seems that our forces are probably ready in both, we hope at least, in both Hawaii and the Philippines, and consequently, the Japanese move is probably anticipated in those points. We just have a bulletin from London that President Roosevelt's announcement of Japanese air attacks on United States Pacific bases staggered London, which awaited fulfillment of Prime Minister Churchill's promise to declare war on Japan within the hour if she attacked the United States. Well, of course, the United States and Japan are not formally at war. However, it seems probable that in view of the Japanese attacks, this is only a question for the reassembling of Congress tomorrow, since if you have actually been attacked by the enemy, you can do but little else. Here's more detail direct from the front, from Honolulu. The smoke of anti-aircraft guns rose over the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard. Heavy smoke also drifted up from Hickam Field in the Pearl Harbor area, apparently from fires. Witnesses said fires broke out on Ford Island. The Japanese attack was evidently well planned, and they seem to have aimed at the principal points that they should have attacked. And meanwhile, of course, President Roosevelt's message to the Emperor of Japan is one of the questions which has now passed into history. Ford Island is the Navy Air Base. Hickam Field is the Army Air Base, the Army bombing field, and it is apparent that the Japanese, who presumably attacked from carriers, as Major Elliott has pointed out, were trying to head off the reprisals from the Army and Navy bombers, which might possibly come back at the carriers from which the Japanese planes set off. This doesn't leave very much for Admiral Nomura and Mr. Kurusu to say in Washington. They have served their purpose, Mr. Kurusu particularly. It might be remarked, so far as Admiral Nomura is concerned, a man who has many friends in this country, who has long been well known here, that he is presumably the kind of Japanese with whom we could have got along in past times if his government had not been a government of a different sort. Admiral Nomura is a man who is well known, as I say, and who is well liked by many Americans, and he is a reminder that there is still a type of Japanese in Japan, although they have had but little to say about their government policy in the past 10 years, with whom we could get along if they were in power, and who are perhaps the best hope of eventual good relations between America and Japan, but something else will have to be done first. Another bulletin from Hawaii that the attack was made by 50 unidentified airplanes, and that the main targets appeared to be Hickman Field, the Army bombing field, and the great naval base at Pearl Harbor. Several planes were shot down.
This again, as I say, seems to reduce to futility all the diplomatic negotiations that were going on, but it seems probable that a statement of American policy and of the history of the recent negotiations is likely to be given out soon, which will show the efforts that our government has made to avert hostilities and to keep the Pacific question on a basis in which some peaceful settlement might still have been possible. Now it appears that the Japanese have positively rejected that. Perhaps only a faction of the Japanese, but the faction which is now controlling their army and their navy and the faction which is in control of the government, so that that settlement of the issue is ruled out. It was said when General Tojo became premier that when we once had an army man at the head of the Japanese government, it would be possible to make an arrangement with them, because the army would no longer be in the background sabotaging any arrangement that might be made by civilian rulers of the country. The Japanese Army and Navy, of course, have a peculiarly powerful position inasmuch as they report directly to the Emperor, and it was not possible, or at least has not been proved possible in the last 10 or 15 years, for any civilian government to follow policies which the Army and Navy disapproved. And the argument when General Tojo came in was that now at last we had one of the ruling clique in control of the government, and an agreement made with him was something that would stick. But it appears that this particular ruling clique had no idea of making any agreement at all, that the sole purpose in their negotiations at Washington was to gain time and to endeavor to throw American military and naval forces off guard, an endeavor which we hope has not been successful, so that they might make their attacks and head off American military and naval operations which might constrict Japanese operations in the Far East.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We have been on the telephone with our station in KGMB, which is in Honolulu, and they report to us that the attacking planes number between 50 and 100, that the air raid is still on, and that the anti-aircraft fire can be heard in a steady drone as the attacking planes come in. As Mr. Davis told you, we received a bulletin just a little while ago which reported that there have been some of these, what Honolulu calls unidentified planes shot down. And this latest report now from KGMB is all that we have to the moment. We will continue to receive reports from there, also from Washington, on the developments in our relations with Japan, the relations which will tell very shortly the story of what is to happen in the months that are to come. And Columbia will bring you important news bulletins during the broadcast of the New York Philharmonic Society, which follows this program, and will also bring you a summary of all developments at the intermission time.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Hope you enjoyed this retrospective of programs that aired on the night of or the day of December 7th, 1941. And that's going to do it for Joe's Retro Radio for this week. I'll be back again in 2 weeks on Sunday, December 22nd at 6 p.m. with another program, at which time I will have probably 4 shows getting us ready for Christmas 2013. Until we see each other again, my friends, live long and prosper.